You know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
So where do we start, OB? I mean, I guess we could talk about the walk-off last night. I mean, that seemed to be a big deal that kept people up a little bit. Well, people like me up later than usual. It is TexAgs Radio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño, and he is?
Olin Buchanan.
Hey, Olin.
Hey.
50-50 ball. Got to come down with it.
Man. Yeah.
Buddy. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. I think championship pedigree is not necessarily that they won last night, but yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing. But you never count this team out. It's like that's why they've only lost 4 games this year. What are they, 29-4, 30-4, something like that? And there's a reason that they win these games. They've had a couple of, also magic moments this year. And last night, Jackson Appel.
Yeah, it was that Bell magic.
With the 3-dinger night.
3 home runs, that walk-off. Brauninger saying, let's go home.
Let's go home.
It was a great end to a frustrating night. You've heard this. Everybody that follows sports heard this. Everybody listen to me knows this cliche is that the mark of a great team is winning when you don't play well.
And what did they made a lot of mistakes.
They made a lot of mistakes.
4 errors in the first 3 innings, I think I read.
Errors. There was base running mistakes.
Yep.
You had guys getting up. Your main guys getting up and not getting key hits, and yet that lineup is so powerful. You wonder who it's going to be on a given night. If it's not multiple guys, who's it going to be that's going to be the star? And it was Jackson Appel.
Am I right? I think he had 3 home runs coming into the game.
Yeah, I heard him say that. So he doubled his.
He's doubled in one evening,
and he needed it to win the and you won. And they were all opposite field. It was that's the kind of performance that someday he'll be telling his grandkids. Well, let me tell you about the time I hit 3 home runs in the game winner in one game.
Well, and hopefully he's got more of that magic left because look, this team's gonna find some adversity. That's the best kind of win, by the way, because so close to losing, but you learn the lessons in that kind of game.
Yeah, I know
right?
what you're saying, but to me the best
20-0.
It's 10-0 walk off,
yeah.
and I don't have to worry about it. But for building
a
confidence
team.
and building culture and all those things, yes, you are absolutely right.
Like if you're a coach like Schloss, I'm sure he doesn't want to see the mistakes. But navigating through those mistakes, navigating through adversity, when it's real easy to be like, all right, midweek game, and again, they didn't play great the last game against South Carolina, right? These are a couple games in a row they haven't played at their highest level, and you almost win that game. Mm-hmm. Came down to the last inning, and you do win this game. Mm-hmm. Let's go, and that sets up for another showdown this weekend.
And plus, as you know, as we all know, that if you're watching basketball, especially or baseball, long season, a lot of games, there's going to be peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
and that had every marking of a valley. And yet you were able to turn it into a win. And I think that just underscores how good this team really is.
Would you like to hear the call from
Yes.
the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco? And somewhere in the background, you might hear a name that we might know here.
Brauninger, so the voice and the noise.
the voice and the noise. Let's listen to the call from last night.
Appel to left field.
Did he do
for
it
his
again?
third home run?
Let's go home.
He did! Olsen Magic Jackson Appel, his third home run of the game, gives the Aggies a 6-5 win.
I figured when I heard Brauninger say, let's go home,
any night with this ball club,
I figured it was either going to be a home run or Ashley had called and said dinner was ready.
Right.
Around Jackson Appel at home plate.
All right. So I'm going to ask the folks in the back to make let's go home a hotkey, something we can go to at any point. Right. And if I'm Texas A&M, or actually TexAgs, Brandon Jones, if you're listening, let's go home TexAgs t-shirts. If you would buy it, I want you to comment on the YouTube page or on the text page. Like, don't you think that? And I think that would be a hot seller.
Let's go home.
Let's go home. I don't know why it sounded like a wrestler there, but that's the shirt.
You never know. You never know what's going to take off.
That's going to take off.
That might be it.
Just Bronny, don't take it off. But that's going to take off.
Yeah. Speaking of, what was Appel wearing under his jersey last night?
One of those trackers.
I don't know.
I think so. A lot of major leaguers. Altuve, not a buzzer. There's a lot of major leaguers that wear that stuff to kind of track where they're going, heart rate, and all that. I assume that's what that is.
I have to admit, I didn't know what that was.
I'll let Bronny tell me the truth, but I believe it's one of those, heart trackers / activity trackers. But I'll ask him when he's here.
Well, if Bronny had it on, it'd be a Manzier.
And he just walked by. As you said that, he just walked by. We're going to talk more baseball throughout the show, obviously. Let me tell you what we have on the program. We've got John Harris at 9 o'clock. We've got Coach Pat Henry at 9:19. We've got Jamie Morrison, volleyball, coming in. We've got Juliana Garcia and Morgan Mangan. They're going to come in to talk about the Mark Massey benefit lunch. We'll talk about that. Bronny at 10 o'clock. And then Kendall Rodgers at 10:35. So a lot of baseball, a lot of talking points. But I thought we can get into a little football for a moment. You think it's okay to talk some football?
It's never a bad time to talk Texas A&M football.
Are you familiar with the outlet ESPN.com?
I'm the ESPN part.
Yeah, ESPN.com. So they have their future power rankings on defense out. Okay. And so Adam Rittenberg, who writes that, who's been on the show several times, he has A&M in the top 25. But just for you to understand where A&M has been the last couple of years, he had A&M ranked 3rd in 2022 and 4th nationally in 2021. Last year, they came in at 15th overall. This year, they are coming in at number 15, OB. 2023 Future Defensive Power Rankings, which is not just 1 year. It's 24, 25, and 26. And he starts that off by saying, the Aggies didn't fire Jimbo Fisher because of his defense, which often eclipsed the offense during Fisher's tenure.
Well, that's true, but I still say the defense
fell short
of what it should be. And look, it was a racehorse with a bad jockey, the defense.
Well, it's either one problem here or one problem there. In 22, the problem was they couldn't stop the run, right?
Right.
In 23, they couldn't stop the pass. It was always something.
Yeah, and the way in 2021 or 2022, they couldn't stop the run.
Yep.
So you had a defensive coordinator say, hey, I got an idea. Let's put fewer defensive linemen out there. Okay, but you don't have very many linebackers. Yeah, but that's what. And then last year it was like, until he was told to, it was like, hey, we're just not going to try to bring pressure on the passer except with our, we're not going to blitz or anything. We got corners that aren't very good or they're very inexperienced, so let's just leave them on an island and let the quarterback have as much time as he wants.
Was that the Miami game you were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
My goodness. Tyler Van Dyke looked like he was going to win the Heisman.
You could have fired DJ Durkin on that alone.
I feel like he's the guy that you come after.
I've heard people, people always want to point out but look how many points they only gave up here and there. And I'm like, they could have been so much better, but you had a guy that just did things that doesn't make sense.
OB, had he been a little bit better, we wouldn't be where we are today, though. We wouldn't have Coach Elko and staff, right? Because they were probably a win away from keeping Jimbo for another year.
Probably.
You win the Ole Miss game, he's here.
Yeah, maybe if you come up with a defensive stop and keep Ole Miss from going 75 yards on the last in the last 2 minutes, yeah, maybe you do.
He goes on to say, Adam Rittenberg, A&M returns key players like Shamar Turner, love him.
Yep, love him.
Bryce Anderson,
love him.
And potential stars like Nick Scorton, gonna love him.
Glad he's here. Love that he's here.
Safety to Ricky Wright from Vanderbilt.
I guess.
I'm excited about him.
Well, is he here yet?
No. If he comes. Turner was dominant and versatile along the line last fall. 6 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 blocked kicks. And
it doesn't even mention Torian York.
Oh, it gets to him.
Okay.
It does.
Okay.
It talks about DJ Hicks, Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy.
Yes.
And a little bit later, sophomore Torian York led the linebackers after a 74-tackle season in 23, including 8.5 tackles for loss. Transfer Scooby Williams, Alex Howard from Youngstown State should be in the rotation with Martrell Harris.
I'm really interested to see what Scooby will do. What Scooby will do. What will Scooby do?
God, I wish we had a Shaggy joke. You should. That's it. Instead of dressing up as Stephen McGee next year, you need to dress up as Shaggy. Yeah.
And bring a dog.
You could look like an older Shaggy now that I think about it.
Do I? And bring a big Great Dane?
Bring a Great Dane. The Aggies have commitments from top 100 junior Dejon Petaway. It talks about Will Lee. It talks about B.J. Mays. So
there are so many reasons. There are so many reasons to feel like A&M will be significantly improved at corner, and I think that's the key to the defense getting better. And it starts with Will Lee coming in, Tariq Chappelle coming back, and some of the other guys. But again, we expect guys who were freshmen last year to struggle, but now they're sophomores or second year. You expect them to be better. And by the way, I do believe they're going to be better coached. And I'll say this. They're going to turn some heads if they turn some heads.
If they
turn them around and look for the ball.
That was their theme song, Turn Around.
No, it was. It wasn't.
Yeah, you're right. They didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
But I am confident in saying their offense will be better this year. I'm confident. Without sight unseen. Confident. And I'm confident saying their defense will be as good or better this year. I say they'll be better.
I have no problem with either of those. I think the offensive line will be better. If the offensive line's better, I'm not saying it's going to be elite. It's going to have to prove that, but I do think it's going to be better.
Yeah.
But who's going to start on the offense? I think I asked you this yesterday. Just give me a tackle to tackle.
I can't.
You can't even guess?
No.
Okay.
Because can I guess? Yes, absolutely. We went through it yesterday, but I don't know. There's too many unknowns. There's too many new faces. Like, it's such a different team.
I'm going to guess Zune Fothery at the tackles.
Right.
I'm guessing Foster at
As of
center.
today, you think Foster is your starting center? Yeah, because there's no reason to say he's not.
And then I'm going to say
Cam Dewberry
and Basantes.
Yeah.
But then you wonder about Amaj something Reed, the transfer from Kansas.
Yep.
And you wonder about Demetrius Crownover. But I do believe those guys will be a better group and a better coach group than what we've seen.
TJ Shanahan in the mix.
Shanahan.
Mark Naboo.
Let me tell you, Naboo, you know what I like about Shanahan is that everything I hear about him is that he's just a nasty individual.
Yep.
And I want he may be a choir boy off the field, but I want my offensive linemen to be just guys that should be bouncers.
Yeah. I'm Armaj Reed Adams.
Reed Adams, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just interested to see what they do at center because I think Bryce today is your guy, absolutely. But the fact that they've been, and they have to, out of necessity, they're putting others at center. But you're seeing Chase there, you're seeing Naboo, like you're seeing other players.
Naboo, I think Shanahan's, from what I've read, is seeing some action at center.
We didn't mention the name Aggie, TJ Shanahan, and Demetrius Crownover, obviously. So they've got some options.
There's a lot of names, and there's a lot of well-respected names, guys that came here that could have gone to a lot of places.
Absolutely, and that's
why good places.
And that's why I struggle with the offensive and several other positions too. Like I can just throw you out names, but there's so many new faces that I don't know how that's going to shake out. Not only new faces picking the new faces,
and once again, that's what gives me cautious optimism. The new faces picking the new faces.
Since we're here, let me just give you some of the top of ESPN's Power Index futures, I should say. The top defense in the country He believes the number one future defense in the country, Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah. Just always say Georgia.
Number 2, Iowa.
Okay.
Sure, whatever. Number 3, Michigan.
Well, yeah, I don't think Harbaugh left the cupboard bare.
Okay. Number 4, Clemson.
Maybe.
Number 5, Ohio State. Sure.
Of course.
Yep. 6, Alabama.
Really?
Let's see.
Okay, I won't.
Short-term stability at linebacker with Deontay Lewis and Jahad Campbell. It talks about senior Justin Jefferson will figure into the rotation as well. It just lists LT Overton obviously being over there.
I just say I wonder where he would have ranked their defense last year.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, how do you get better with the guys that they lost, especially Dallas Turner?
You'll be interested in hearing who number 7 is. It's on A&M schedule.
If you tell me Texas, I'm going to.
No, Texas is coming sooner than you think.
But 7, I guarantee, is Notre Dame.
It is Notre Dame.
Yeah, they're going to be good on defense.
Yeah.
Offense, maybe not, but defense, they're going to be stout.
So, yeah, Notre Dame, the first game of the season. The last game of the season is against who?
Texas.
And they are the number 8.
I would say why.
Would you like me to read it a little bit from here?
Yeah, because my understanding is they've lost a lot of good talent on defense.
The Longhorns have taken a significant step forward in many areas last season, including defense that rode from 53rd nationally in yards allowed to 34th. The unit loses Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, T'Vondre Sweat, fellow tackle Brian Murphy II, and Jalen Ford and others, but made a strong push in the transfer portal with Trey Moore, who A&M was interested in, safety Andrew Mabuka from Clemson, and linebacker Kendrick Blackshire from Alabama. So they picked up
So Kendrick Blackshire, who's not played at Alabama, Duncanville kid. I was always hoping he would come to A&M. But what has he done at Alabama?
Right. Trey Moore, who did good stuff at UTSA, and Andrew Mabuka.
So he's talking about losing some NFL players. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that they got these transfers that may not be NFL players.
Right.
Maybe they will, some of them. But what has, like Blackshire, for instance, and I bring him up because, that's a guy that played in the SEC.
Yep.
What has he done to make you think that he could be an NFL talent?
Well, and the next thing he brings up here, which I think there are certain players that we're always going to compare what they do in their career. One of those is Harold Perkins at LSU. We keep an eye out because he had a really great freshman year. Last year took a little bit of a step back because of the system they put him in. And I think Anthony Hill is another name we're going to pay attention to because he was there. And it says Ford's departure
I'm not saying they're void of defensive talent. I'm just saying
I know.
Top 10?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. He says Anthony Hill will be in the starting role for at least the next 2 years. And part of the reason that they believe Kobe Black is there and Terrence Brooks, some names that they have on here.
Brooks, who
cornerback
should be here.
Malik Muhammad and Terrence Brooks.
Yeah. I saw that. Did I not see that defense get torched a few times last year with all the talent they had on?
You did. SEC time. Let's do it again. Same time. Jinx. I win. Let's. By the way,
things that make you go,
Arsenio Hall?
No, the guy. I thought that would be right down your alley. That rap song or whatever. Things that make you go,
Things that make you go, Yeah, but Arsenio Hall also had a segment on the show like things that make you go.
How much you want to bet that our bumper music coming back is going to be?
Oh yeah. What if they're not paying attention?
Well, but he's always paying attention.
He is. Good job, Sean. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 979-693-1150. This is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Let's go around the room and say hello to the people. We go behind the glass. I believe Cade Bickham is working the glass. Cade, good morning.
Yes, that is correct. It is me. Good morning, y'all. How are y'all doing?
Tottenham shirt?
What's Tottenham?
Yeah.
You don't know what that is?
No.
You don't know what a hot spur is?
A hot spur?
Yeah.
Tim Duncan on a streak?
Are you familiar with the now Bayern Munich player Harry Kane?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with Sonny?
From The Godfather? Yeah.
No.
He got whacked.
Son? No?
Son?
You want to tell him who we're talking about there, Cade?
I will, yeah. So Son, Heung-min Son, he's the striker.
Is he from South Korea?
He's from South Korea, yeah.
It sounds like a South Korean.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He's, I think, the fifth highest scorer in Tottenham history.
Do you hear that? Do you hear
like
that? Do you hear that noise, Cade?
I do. Yeah.
That's people changing the station around the country as we speak.
Yeah.
Hey, I recognize it. Our audience does not want to hear international soccer.
I didn't know Tottenham. So
Yeah, the Tottenham Hotspurs. And they are located where, OB?
in Tottenham,
Which is where?
Germany.
London.
Oh, London.
Yeah. Hey, what's on your mind this morning, Cade?
Oh, well, I was just going to talk about baseball. You know, we have a big series this weekend.
Wait.
against
Where do
Vanderbilt.
they play? Or they don't play at Wembley, do they? Does Tottenham play at Wembley? No, they have their own stadium.
Oh,
now.
if it would have been
but-
Tottenham, it would have been Germany. I just missed it by a couple of vowels.
All right, continue on, please.
In any case, A&M plays Vandy this weekend in baseball, and usually I would be, worried about that because they're Vanderbilt, but our team is so good this year. I find myself, thinking like, hey, they're good. They're still Vanderbilt, but we should win this series. We should win this series, and I think that's just a testament to what our baseball team has been this year.
You know what I say to that? Let's go home.
Let's go home. Well, the game is here.
Oh, yeah, so let's stay here.
It's a home game.
Let's stay here, and let's win early so we can go home early. Let's go home early.
Let's go home early.
That sounds like somebody else. That doesn't sound like Bronny.
No, it doesn't at all.
Who does that
I
sound
don't
like?
know. I have no idea.
A wrestler?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, good stuff there, Cade. Appreciate you. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Callie Gardner in the house. Callie, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going. I think we're a happy morning. I mean,
is
a
a happy
walk-off
morning.
win?
Yeah. I mean, can't ask for much
say
more
let's
than
go
that.
home in your best let's go home.
Oh, I
Just
don't.
try it. Come on, do it. Do it, come on.
Let's go home.
No.
There's a little more like Bronny in you. Let's try again.
Let's go home.
There we go.
That's Bronny.
That's
That's
probably
not
the
Bronny.
That sounded more like, what's that Adam Sandler football movie?
Longest yard? No. Bobby Boucher.
Bobby Boucher. That was a little more Bobby Boucher there in your voice. But
Well,
Waterboy.
not what I was going for.
what's going on,
We've
Kelly?
got so many text messages saying that they would buy a Let's Go Home shirt from TexAgs. So maybe that's something we should capitalize on.
Would they buy it if I bought a Hanes shirt and I just wrote it? And
Why would you bring something about Haynes King on?
nice play. Nice play.
I don't know. We might have to ask a separate question
Now,
about that.
now if we sell a lot of these Let's Go Home shirts, does Bronny get a cut?
I think it should go to Coach Schlossnagel's philanthropy of choice.
But Bronny's coined the phrase then.
But has he?
Well,
I mean,
you didn't talk about it till he said it.
yeah, that's true. I might have gotten a phone call about it. Like, you've got to go re-listen. I might have gotten that phone call.
Get lawyers involved.
Continue on, please.
Other than all of that, we had a crazy baseball game last night. Aggies held off a talented UTSA team. Jackson Appel walked it off with a solo home run to win it 6-5 in the bottom of the ninth. He had 3 home runs last night. Just a really impressive night at the plate for him. Chris Cortez was also the story out of the bullpen. Starting pitching wasn't really where it needed to be, but Chris finished the game throwing the last 4 innings and allowing 2 hits and pitching 7 strikeouts. Jackson Appel talked about Chris's confidence in a post-game interview, and you can just clearly see that when Chris steps on the mound. He's moved out of a starting role and into a bullpen guy, but he's been absolutely fantastic. And according to Coach Schloss, that's where he'll stay for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, good stuff there. And we're excited to see what he's doing.
Yeah.
Just keep it up. I mean, and also Troy Wansing being back.
Mm-hmm.
Pair those guys together.
Yeah, but you
need more time with Troy, obviously.
Obviously. But, if Chris Cortez, could that have been an indication that he's emerging now? Because if he gets the ball consistently over the plate, is it a stretch to say he could be, if he's getting the ball consistently, that he's your second best pitcher?
I don't know.
He's got such a
I don't know. Lampkin's been pretty darn good, man.
I'm just.
Yeah, I see
I'm saying Lampkin's better now.
Yeah.
But if you got a Chris Cortez with that arm.
Yeah.
Because he was dominant last night. Of course, it was UTSA, but.
Well, hey, we are way late for a break. Right now, Louie's having a conniption, so we'll come back to Callie here shortly. What's the theme of the show today?
Let's go home.
Why would we want to come back to College Station? Because we love living here?
Yeah, because it's home.
Yeah. Huh. Imagine if you don't live here and you need a job.
Yeah.
And you want to come back.
And you want to come home?
Where would you go? The Association of Former Students? Just in case you didn't know where I was going with that.
I knew exactly where you were going.
Well, they have jobs.
Home.
You want to come home? I can't do it right. I'm changing the accent each time.
Let's go home, baby.
If you want to come home, look no further than the Association of Former Students. They're looking to hire professionals in many different areas. One of those areas, by the way, is on their marketing team. They have positions open there, fundraising, former student programs, and much, much more. They're the nation's premier alumni association, serving the oldest organization in support of that Aggie network. The association plays a part in each and every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss opportunities to help out the association with Howdy Socials, Aggie Ring Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. And you can join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, selfless service, all in support of that Aggie network. So if you're interested in coming home and joining a team that shares with everybody's vision of Texas A&M, please visit tx.ag/associationjobs to apply and get more information on each position.
Every one of them. Come on home.
There you go. That's all I want.
Come on home.
Go. Let's go home. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. It's the Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan. Today is Wednesday, April the 10th, 2024. I remembered a long time ago, Dalton suggested I start the show off with that, just because people don't know what day it is. They're driving to work. They're like, it could be Tuesday. I should tell them.
Yeah.
You never know. Huh. Obi, are you a Caleb Williams fan or overrated? Do you like him? Do you think he's going to be a good pro? What do you think about Caleb Williams?
I think he'll be a good pro. I'm skeptical that he's going to be as great as he's being hyped up to be. Yes, he put up.
Aren't they calling him the best QB since Andrew Luck to come to the draft? I believe I've seen that.
You probably have. And and he may be. But again, I'm somewhat skeptical. And the reason I'm skeptical, I'm not saying he's not talented.
Right.
But his whole career, he's been at places where his offensive linemen, typically on a week-to-week basis, are better than the defensive line on the other
Absolutely.
team. That his receivers are better
Yep.
than they're going to say. Oklahoma, you have the advantage. At USC, you had the advantage.
Right.
And yeah, he put up big numbers, but like I said yesterday, every quarterback in the Pac-12 put up big numbers. But what did he do when they played good teams that could match up with him? Like last year against Notre Dame.
100%, yeah.
He was very average then.
He was very average. The reason I bring it up is Greg McElroy, who we talked about yesterday, talking about A&M, talked about Caleb recently. I'm going to let you listen to his comments. I want you to respond, and then I want you to see Caleb Williams' response, all right? So here's GMAC a couple days ago talking about Caleb Williams.
He has never experienced adversity. Very little adversity as far as how he was received and how he was portrayed as the next best guy. Even when they went 7-6 this year, or 6-6 or whatever, 7-5, it wasn't because of Caleb. I mean, he did his part, and he did. And a lot of that is true. But I do wonder about, is there a sense of entitlement? Is there that chip on the shoulder that's going to keep him going 10, 12 years down the road the way it does Mahomes?
What do you think about that?
I think it's all fair.
Okay. I want you to see Caleb Williams' response because, we live in a world now that athletes have a chance to respond.
As well, they should be able to.
Here's a tweet. Let's go back to school again because I'm bored. Adversity, a state or instance of serious, continued difficult or misfortune. Year 1, didn't start as a freshman. Year 2, popped my hamstring in game's first quarter, lost because of my hammy. Year 3, 7-5 my last year of college ball. So what he's saying is he has faced adversity in the 3 years of being a college athlete.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, let me go back to this. Against Notre Dame last year, he was 23 of 37, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Okay? Now, there's plenty of games where he put up over 300 yards passing, but I would say against so many of those other teams, everybody put up. So I just think that there's legitimate questions about him. I'm not saying he can't play at the NFL level. Yes, I'm sure he'll be a good starter, but I'm just skeptical that there's this idea that he's going to be this next level, the next Mahomes type of guy. I'm skeptical of that. And by the way, how many times do we hear all the hype about the kid who's with the Bears now? They went to Georgia.
Justin Fields. Who's no longer with the Bears. He's now with the Steelers, I believe.
Yeah. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of guys get hyped up.
Right.
And
well, a couple things. I'm skeptical of what kind of pro he's going to be, but I think it's very hard to talk about somebody you don't know's chip on their shoulder. Right?
Okay, that's fair.
Like, I don't know. He might have I've never been in the locker room with him. I haven't heard negative things about how the one thing that I read that was negative was he was trying to manipulate the draft to go where he wants to go,
right?
Which turned out to be false. Apparently, it was a false report. So
and maybe, and then it was a deal like I want partial ownership, and
right?
Stuff like
which
that.
Apparently he says he never said, but whatever, right? So I think it's totally fair to question what kind of pro you think he's going to be. To talk about somebody's heart, which is what I take it as, like, is he going to have that chip in it? We all have different types of adversity. You don't have to be on the bench to face adversity. So, like, we make our own adversity at times. Like, what did Jerry Rice always say? He thought anytime the 49ers would draft a wide receiver, they were coming for his spot. 6th-round pick, 1st-round pick, J.J. Stokes, didn't matter. Terrell Owens, he always tried to outwork them during the offseason. That was his mentality. Does Caleb Williams have that? I don't know. Does Bryce Young have that? I don't know. We don't know these things. So I think that part of it, it's hard to question unless you've been told things. And I don't know what information GMAC has been given.
No, I think I think he's probably looking at a lot of the same things I'm looking at and say, they went 7-5. And then the first thing is, well, it wasn't his fault. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, so many times quarterbacks get the blame, right? And maybe it's not always fair, but why is it now different for Caleb Williams?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to sell a narrative.
Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with more. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's talk about Chance McClain and Heritage Films. They make documentary films about families. They do it about your parents. They do it about your grandparents. They do it about anything in your family that's important. Family business, family ranch. They'll tell that story, and they do it better than anybody out there. You want a 2-hour documentary done about your family the right way, you reach out to Chance McClain. You want to talk about your time at A&M and what A&M means to you, you reach out to Chance McClain. You want to talk about how your buddies get together, you guys go play golf every Saturday morning. You've been doing it for 20 years. Have them be an eye in the sky and hang out with you guys as you do that and tell the story about all the great golf you guys have been playing and some of the bad golf as well. Chance will tell your story in a 2-hour documentary form. He also does the Year Flicks, which is a shorter version of that. It's a 20-minute Q&A with the green screen in the background to help tell the story, and it's awesome. Really more reserved for the younger kids in the family. You can do it as a benchmark video, 8th grade year, going into high school, what they're into, what they like, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. They pick what school they're going to, and, of course, it's Texas A&M. Had that 4-part miniseries done Chance's way with Heritage Films in Year Flicks. The phone number, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. The website, yourheritagefilm.com. Again, that is yourheritagefilm.com. Welcome back to a Walk It Off Wednesday, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations, David Nuño, Olin Buchanan, I feel like we're all in a good mood this morning.
Well, I had my Monster.
Buddy, I'm telling you, I'm scared I'm going to find you like hyperventilating and like a mid-stroke. Like, I don't know if you should be taking those.
If I had 3 cups of coffee today, you wouldn't even think anything of it.
There's difference, buddy. Have you seen the chemicals? I don't know about Monster per se, but if you want, I can play that game and read them all out to you.
1 or 2 a week is not going to.
Oh, it's only 1 or 2 a week?
Yeah, I don't have to drink.
I thought you have them every day.
No.
Okay. Just every day you travel.
I wouldn't even say 1 or 2 a week.
Okay. Oh, you're fine then.
Yeah, I drank a lot one time around January because my wife knows how much I like them, and so she bought me a pack of 15 for Christmas.
Do we have those upstairs?
No.
Okay. Good. It could be dangerous.
But anyway, so that I'm always in a more hyper mood after I have one.
Yeah. So Scott Drew to Kentucky. What do you think about that? Apparently they've had some discussions.
Well, I understand.
He's good friends with Mitch Barnhart, my understanding, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Was Barnhart ever? Does he have any ties to Pagel?
I don't think he does.
Maybe. Okay. I can understand why you would be interested in Scott Drew.
Of the available guys, is he the potential best available? He's won a national championship at freaking Baylor. Well, until they say they're not available, everybody's
available.
Right? And apparently Nate Oates is unavailable.
Okay. He's probably as good as anybody. Like you just said, he's won a national championship.
At Baylor.
And they've been good.
His whole time.
So, okay, all right.
You think they can swing higher?
I don't know why I would leave Baylor to go to Kentucky when I got a good thing going, except I'm getting out of the dying Big 12.
Yeah. Well,
but
from a basketball perspective.
But, yeah, I know, but the conference itself.
Yeah.
But here's the question. Everybody can coach. Do you have the personality to coach at Kentucky?
All right. Like, what kind of personality does it take? Because Billy Gillespie didn't have that personality.
Right. First of all, you gotta
schmooze,
enjoy the constant spotlight. You gotta like that.
Yeah.
And
the scrutiny that comes with it.
I remember Logan saying that one time they went. I think he said to Ole Miss, and they lost the game. And it was their first conference loss. They were like 5-1, and the next day everything was should these guys be fired now?
There was a column about that.
Yeah, like
oh wow,
like they're 5-1, they lost on the road. Should this staff be fired right now? So that's what you get at Kentucky. It's Alabama and on a basketball court.
So Nate Oates might have the personality for that. Although basketball does not matter there.
Basketball is not the same. As good as they are and how they're jumping on board.
I talked to an insider there that's like, dude, I try to talk basketball and people don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
we can relate.
Huh?
We can relate, I mean, people care, but they don't care with the same fervor.
They care, but they don't.
Football.
Right? There's a level of waiting to see how good they are to care.
Right. Just like A&M.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an ultimate bandwagon sport here.
So who else?
If you're good, everybody's on the bandwagon.
Do you think? Let's see, who else is out there that would make sense with the right type of personality?
Well, I wonder, could you get Jay Wright to come out of retirement? Probably not.
I don't think so. But he's got the personality that I think could handle that.
Right. Would you go after a Hurley?
I see no reason to leave. Zero reason.
I said a Hurley. It didn't have to be that Hurley.
Is Bobby doing all right?
I don't know.
I don't know what Bobby's doing with his career.
Is he at Arizona State? I don't even know where he is anymore.
I don't either.
But, the family. I'd have to really think about it hard. Mark Few's never leaving Spokane, right? But again, it's Eddie Sutton, Hall of Fame coach, a great coach, did great things at Arkansas, did great things at Oklahoma, got chewed up and spit out at Kentucky. So it's not how good of a coach you are. Everybody that they're going to consider is a good coach, but can you handle Kentucky? You got to be mentally strong.
Can you be a good coach in that environment? It's a different and different quality of players. Let's face it, Kentucky gets a different breed. And yes, Coach Cal was a master at getting that breed, but you get some guys that have walked on water from a basketball perspective for most of their career, if not all their career.
Right. Well, and of course, in too many cases, their career's 1 year.
1 year.
And that's Calipari's undoing. But you run into that thing. Do you not take that freshman that's so great that everybody in the country wants him and you know he's going to play in the NBA?
Everybody would try to take him.
So you take him. Well, the price of that is you only get him for 1 year, so you never have a experienced team.
Well, that's why you have to take, which in basketball is hard because of a limited roster. You got to take a couple of the guys that aren't going to get drafted in every class that can be starters at an A&M, but are your backups at Kentucky.
I think you're right.
That's how you build the team.
And I think that's why he might have more success than people realize at Arkansas. I've said it before. I think he has the personality to get a couple of those guys that would go to Kentucky, but I don't think he can get them in mass, so he'll have to have some of the guys that are going to be around for 2 and 3 and 4 years.
People do like to hold against him that he celebrated all my guys go to the NBA more than he celebrated victories in the NCAA tournament. And my point is, what a coach says out loud, to kind of deflect some of the issues of the program, do I really think he celebrates getting guys? I think he does for their personal career, but most of those guys were already going to the NBA without Coach Cal.
Yeah, wherever they go.
Right.
So back to Scott Drew. Do you think we don't know him personally.
I think the fact that he's having the conversation.
Does he have the personality to be successful at Kentucky?
So I've heard a lot of. I covered Scott for 2 years. Found him to be very pleasant to deal with, very nice man. He seems to have the kind of personality, but I've also heard a lot of bad things about him behind the scenes. A lot, like from coaches, right?
Yeah.
I think he has the personality that he could handle that. I do.
Well,
I do.
Then I could see Kentucky going there. Then.
And I think Mitch Barnhart and him are pretty aligned in the way they go about their business. So I think it could work. But what does work? At Kentucky, you better win a national championship or it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. No, you better win multiple national championships or it doesn't work.
Yeah, and getting out of the first round or the second round ain't going to cut it.
That's what you're supposed to do.
No, I think at Kentucky, you're supposed to at least make the Elite Eight, right?
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
So you're supposed to win those early games.
Yep, no doubt. I don't know.
It's a high pressure. Some people thrive in high pressure situations. Some wilt.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with an open segment when we come back here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, QC Kinetics time. The future of medicine is here, and that is thanks to our friends at QC Kinetics. Here in the Brazos Valley, they're taking care of people all over the place with the most exciting revolution in pain management we've seen in decades. It's called regenerative medicine. So if you're tired of those achy joints, I know many of you are, if your joint pain is keeping you from doing what you love to do, whatever that may be, you need to call QC Kinetics right now. Surgery, steroids, drugs, these are no longer your best options out there. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results. We're talking about natural biologics, using your body's own power to repair and restore that damaged tissue. So they are the nation's leader, right? And they've got a national medical director there in Mitchell Shinecup who's helping everybody there with, he's a pioneer in the field with 20 years of clinical work and tons of research, tons of teaching, and of course publishing as well. And he wants to get you relief with a needle, not a knife out there. So call QC Connects right now to learn more about some exciting options out there. Get a free consultation, by the way, when you do call them. That phone number is 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. This text comes in from Tap Bentz, our buddy. The question might also be, will Baylor match Kentucky's money? They wouldn't for Kim Mulkey when she asked for that, and that's why she's at LSU.
Okay. There's a difference in what some places will do for men's basketball as opposed to women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Baylor made a mistake with Mulkey. I mean, you don't have to like her to acknowledge that she's a great coach.
Yep.
They've realized incredible success under Scott Drew. Would you do whatever it takes to keep him?
Yeah, especially a guy that, like, he put your athletic program on the map. Well, I guess Mulkey started that, but, I mean, that was around the same era. By the way, you know what? One thing that women's basketball in college has done brilliantly is having coaches with personalities bigger than life. They've really done a good job with that. Like, you may not agree with them, but Gino Auriemma is a huge personality. Gary Blair, huge personality. Mulkey, huge personality. Dawn Staley, I don't know if she's got a huge personality, but she's a star in that world. These are Pat Summitt, huge, right? A legendary.
Well, but is that because of women's basketball trying to cultivate that, or is that just who they are?
I think that's who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess my point is maybe that job brings those kind of talent, that kind of talent in there.
I think so.
Like in men's basketball,
I don't think you see a lot of meek guys
coaching
that are incredibly successful.
Would you say that same kind of personality in men's basketball with the top coaches?
Well, who are the top coaches?
Well, right now, I guess it's different, but legendary. Let's say Coach Cal.
Cal, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought Roy Williams had a big personality.
Dean Smith?
He's
a legend, though. Just a legend, yeah. I don't mean that to diminish him.
Self, I guess, has a big personality, I guess. I'm not around him enough, but he seems like it.
Buzz?
Buzz has a big personality.
Yeah.
He hadn't attained that level of success
I think
yet.
Some of those women's basketball coaches, I feel like are they maybe more controversial when it comes to news topics? And I'm not just talking about the political landscape we're in, but Auriemma has always had a big mouth. And I don't mean that negatively. He's in Mulkey, absolutely one of the most outspoken people out there.
Well, she's definitely that. I don't know.
There's no doubt.
I think that especially at high profile positions, you have to have guys with big Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Bigger than life.
Bigger than life, right? And I think that comes with winning a lot, because there's probably a lot of coaches with big personalities that just haven't yet had that kind of success. And also in the women's game, it seems to me that you have fewer programs that win championships.
Yep.
You right now in the women's games, there's probably a half dozen that you expect to win.
By the way, Janiah Barker in the transfer portal. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. That's unfortunate.
Hopefully she comes back. That's a big profile player that Joni was able to get from Georgia.
But I think if they're not able to convince her to stay, I think Joni will go out and get some other good players, and they'll continue to grow that program.
Yeah. Callie, quick text or no?
We had a question for you. It says, have you been following the whole Randy Trujillo thread on TexAgs? It's on page 1 about Rhode Island tickets. Fascinating and don't cost TexAgs users.
Yeah, I saw it. I tried to exit that conversation. I did see that.
I don't know who this guy is.
Unfortunate. Let's do this. Let's hit a break. We're going to come back with Juan Haris, John Harris. OB, thank you, buddy. We'll see you in a bit. I want to take over some football right now. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to footballtakeover.com's John Harris, also the Texans sideline reporter, as he joins us every Wednesday at this time. Johnny, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right, David.
What's going on?
All right, hanging in there, trying to just get to the 25th. 2 weeks from tomorrow will be the first round, which the Texans are no longer in. But it's been away for a couple weeks. So, yeah, draft party got moved to Friday, which is cool because we'll have, at this point, we'll have 3 picks, but we'll see what happens because Nick is never stopping.
Well, buddy, I got to tell you, there's a lot of draft things I want to get into. But the first thing, I brought this up in the last segment and with OB. I just wanted your thoughts. I was talking about women's basketball coaches being larger than life. And I think to be a head coach at any sport, right, you have to, and to be successful, typically you do have a larger-than-life personality. Obviously Nick Saban has a larger-than-life personality. Coach K has a larger-than-life personality when you talk about these legends. But on the women's side, I feel like sometimes they're a little bit more in-your-face, confrontational, like Gino Auriemma was that way. Am I just having a senior moment, or is that maybe a thing?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, you think about Gino Auriemma, you think about Kim Mulkey. Dawn Staley does her business, a little bit differently. I think maybe that's coincidental, just that you had, Gino, the way that he did things at UConn, and Kim Mulkey, Dawn just does things differently. And obviously she got an undefeated season out of this team. And it was a team. The reason I was so intrigued by what she did this year was that team was pretty much completely different from the year before. She had a couple of freshmen. I mean, they talked about throughout the broadcast about how, a couple of those freshmen just had to sit down. And that is not easy to do in today's world, to sit down a freshman, a highly recruited, high-profile freshman, sit them down and say, you need to learn how to play the game of basketball. So I don't know if it's just the outward showing of emotion, but I think you have to have a strong personality with strong beliefs in how things are supposed to be done. That I think you have to have at any level. And you have to stick to those beliefs. And there are so many people that, whether they mean to or not, pull away at those beliefs because they have a different idea about how things are supposed to go or whatever. And if you are strong and consistent with your belief system, then you'll be okay. I think when you think about college, you mentioned a couple of college basketball coaches, we might not, there's also a little bit of luck that plays into all this too. You mentioned Mike Krzyzewski. Mike Krzyzewski after year 3, if Mike Krzyzewski's year 3 had happened in the current world, he would have been gone. He'd been gone. But his athletic director stuck with him. And the next year, he recruited Jay Billish, Johnny Dawkins, David Henderson, this great group of recruits. And all of a sudden, you started to see them turn the corner. And then you got a couple more. Then you got Danny Ferry. Oh, and all of a sudden, they're going to the Final Four. And all of a sudden, Krzyzewski becomes Coach K. He would have been a fired Mike Krzyzewski, in today's world. But Mike Krzyzewski got the opportunity to stick to his beliefs and stick to what he felt was right. I don't know that universities give those coaches that time anymore for the most part. I mean, as far as I see it. So I think you have to be a strong personality. You got to have a little bit of luck involved. But if you stick to your core belief system and you got a few players that can make some things happen, maybe you turn into Tara Vanderveer, who also was a very strong personality, coached 45 years at Stanford, which is just incredible. So I think what's going to happen, David, just my interpretation of it, I think that Tara Vanderveers, the Nick Sabans, coaches that have been around and will be around into their 70s, I think that's going to be a thing of the past. I think you're going to see more Jay Wrights. Jay Wright won a few championships at Villanova, kind of saw the NIL transfer portal coming. He's like, I got all the money in the world. I want to retire and not have all this stress anymore. I'm out. And he was 60, like early 60s. So I think you're going to see coaches staying less and less. And because they're staying less and less, I think you're going to see, maybe not as many, Dawn Staley's, Kim Mulkey's, Gino Auriemma's. You're going to see some that just are in. They have a short stint. Maybe they win a championship. They made their money and they're out. Just too much pressure to be a college coach. It's kind of what I foresee down the future. But I think it's maybe just coincidental in women's basketball. I'll tell you this. That was a fun Final Four to watch. That was a really fun Final Four to watch with Iowa and UConn, LSU, South Carolina. That was a really fun one to watch for sure.
Johnny, here's a question from James on the YouTube chat. It says, can a coach have too big of a personality for on-the-field results? And he's thinking Lane Kiffin in this kind of realm.
Yeah, I think that absolutely. The word fit always comes to mind. And it's funny, when Lane Kiffin took over at Ole Miss, I just never saw it as a fit. I was like, this is odd. It's just kind of weird because, I don't know, I just had always thought about Lane Kiffin in Hollywood and USC, and that maybe is not doing it right. But when I got to meet Lane, I realized, he's kind of an understated guy. Maybe Ole Miss is the right fit, but I feel like fit is a major thing for coaches. Athletic director, who are the boosters? Auburn's a great case of, you can have, personalities as coach, but man, that booster system has gotten rid of some pretty decent coaches over the years, running Gus Malzahn out of there. And obviously coaches before that have had issues with, I can't remember his name. There's a highfalutin booster. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know. But I know Auburn has kind of that situation. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of issues, or there's a lot of things that can go into it. But to me, it's kind of fit. Where do you fit? Do you have an athletic director that brought you to campus? That's one other thing. Athletic directors, they take a job and a coach has been there for a few years. And, well, if that wasn't your guy to begin with, then as soon as you hit the skids, you're going to end up looking for a new football, basketball, baseball, whatever the case might be. So I just think there are a lot of every university is going to be different how they go about that. And what universities end up looking for particular coaches, and is that coach going to fit? And that's why I kind of look at Kalen DeBoer. And I think Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a football coach. But I just wonder what the fit is going to be at Alabama.
Right.
And how long does it take for a fan base to really warm up to a coach? I know for a fact they didn't warm up to Bill O'Brien. That Yankee can't call the right ball plays. That's just the way they thought. Nick Saban had won at LSU. And because he had won at LSU, I think that mattered a lot to Alabama fans. They kind of looked at him as a Southerner. He knew the SEC. They kind of accept him as one of their own. They gave him a little bit of time. If you remember, Nick Saban's first year was 7-6? That was it. But then the next year they got it going, and okay. Then obviously you become a victim of maybe your own success. But that said, the fit at Alabama, I remember when he took the job at Alabama, I felt like it was a good fit from the beginning. It just took a second to get where he wanted to go, and then it was perfect. I just look at Kalen DeBoer and think, man, is that the right fit? Lane Kiffin is maybe showing that outwardly, maybe not like Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin doesn't maybe look like it goes together, but I don't know. Maybe if you eat peanut butter with banana, maybe that's a good fit. I don't know. Some people are going to like it. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. But if it's successful enough for enough people, they'll grow to like some peanut butter and banana. I don't, but some people might.
Johnny, this tweet came in from MB TexAgs, and Nuño, we're hearing $11 million on the table for Kentucky for Scott Drew. Does Scott Drew, do you think that's a fit? Because I feel like he's got a likable, well, depends. I feel like some people like his personality, and he might be moldable with Kentucky.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit more of a chameleon. I think he will adapt to Kentucky.
Right.
As opposed to, Kentucky adapt like, hey, this is my system. I think he'll adapt more to Kentucky. But, Drew is not. I remember early on in Drew's career at Baylor, man, he was not liked.
You're right.
At all. College coaches did not like him for whatever reason. There were some that
recruiting
said
stuff.
He was doing, some recruiting stuff that they didn't like. But Scott Drew was like, man, I go out and work hard, man. They're like, what do you want me to do? So I do think Kentucky would be I do think it could be a fit, because I think Drew would adapt to Kentucky without losing what is important to him. And, one of the things that is important to him is religion, having, his team, like family, things like that. I think Kentucky's kind of looking for that, looking for guys that are going to stick around 2-3 years. I think Kentucky fans, and I could be off on this a little bit, but I think Kentucky fans want their basketball. Look, they want success, but I think they want their basketball team to have success, but to stick around Lexington 2 or 3 years. Get to know them, get to be part of Big Blue Nation, not a one-stop shop before they get to the NBA. So I felt like that just kind of wore Kentucky fans thin. A guy like Reed Shepherd going there was big for them. That was huge for them. And Kentucky, legacy going there and playing well. If he stays 2-3 years, it just adds to the aura, and I think it just makes Kentucky fans that much more excited. But obviously they want to win. There's no doubt. But I always got the feeling that Kentucky fans wanted to win with 2 and 3 year guys, not just these hot shot freshmen talent, throw it together, see if it sticks sort of thing. They want the guys that are there at Kentucky, that choose to be at Kentucky and live the tradition and the legacy of being at Kentucky. And I don't know that that's where college basketball is, but I do feel like a guy like Scott Drew could go find players that kind of fit that mold and then develop them over the years. And so I do think that Scott Drew could end up being a fit at Kentucky. I mean, look, in all honesty, Kentucky's not a fit for probably 97% of the college coaches. It just won't be a fit because there's such enormity with that job. Big Blue Nation. I mean, what that's all about. I do think a guy like Scott Drew could handle it. So, he still can recruit, so he'll still get a few players. But I think he's got to find players that are going to stick around and be the rock star core that stick around for 2-3 years. As crazy as that sounds, then develop them. Because the Kentucky fans, to me, have always loved – who was the big guy they had a couple of years ago? He had been there for 2-3 years. I can't remember his name. It was not Tshiebwe. It was the guy before that. And the fans loved him because he went from a guy that couldn't walk and chew gum to being, I think, like SEC Defensive Player of the Year, something like that. And the fans loved him. They're like, that's Kentucky basketball. Like, that's what they sort of, get off on, and that's fine. And I think if Scott Drew can kind of merge that with some hot shot talent and get them back to the top of the SEC, Scott Drew can be there for as long as he wants.
So I think I read this correctly. Do you have Dallas Turner as the best defensive prospect? Is that what I read, Johnny?
I do.
And
I do.
Why is that?
Well, there are a couple things. Number one, I don't think the defensive prospects in this draft are tremendous, to be honest. But when I started looking at, honestly, who was in the draft, Dallas Turner is the most explosive off the edge. He obviously plays a priority position, playing out on the edge. He can do anything you ask. He's gotten bigger. He's kind of added to his pass rush repertoire. He's already twitchy and athletic and all those kind of things. He's sudden off the edge. He's football violent. He got, not more clutch, but he started making bigger plays with Will Anderson out of the mix. He got a few more opportunities to be kind of feature rusher. He handled double teams a little bit better this year. He's just a guy you look at it and go, could you see him in a locker room? Could you see him starting week one, day one for an NFL team? Is he built the way you want? And the answer is yes to all those questions. There's nobody that you look at other positions and go, man, are you better at your position than this guy? And it just isn't. This just isn't. And I don't want to take away from Dallas Turner because I think Dallas Turner would be top 10 in a lot of drafts. But last year's draft, he would have been, to me, at least the third defensive player off the board behind both Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that would put in that mix. This just isn't a defensive draft. And that'll show itself in a couple of weeks, David. You're going to see quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles go off the board. Boom, boom, boom. They're just coming off the board. But you'll see a few rushers go off the board because that's obviously a priority position. The corners will start coming off the board probably middle of the round. There are some good corners, but there's just nobody better at his position that projects to be that kind of rusher at the NFL like Dallas Turner. Then I know a lot of people are like, well, look at his numbers. His numbers aren't great. Yeah, I don't get lost in numbers when it comes to draft stuff. There are all kinds of reasons why guys may not be totally productive. But I watch Dallas Turner. There are times in the game where he can take it over. He can run a guy down from behind. He's 4.4 speed at 200 and almost 50 pounds. I mean, those guys are freakazoids. You don't find them at Walmart. You got to go to special, aisles at Nordstrom's to find guys like that. So to me, Dallas Turner is that guy. And, oh, by the way, this. He did it in the best conference that there is. And that matters a lot to me. The fact that he faced, the tackles that he faced, those guys are going to be playing in the NFL. He's not going to be facing, guys that played 4 years at, whatever school and they're going to Wall Street, or they're going to work in their dad's tire shop or whatever. And there's no offense to that. It's just they're not going to extend their career. Dallas Turner's going to extend his career and he's going to do it for a while. The question becomes, in the draft, where are all these quarterbacks going? And then you get to a point where the Chargers are sitting there with essentially the top pick of all the non-quarterbacks. And then all of a sudden, here comes the wide receiver run. There's a chance that the first defensive player doesn't go off the board until pick number 8 with Atlanta. And David, you have been following the draft as long as I have. When is the last time you saw a defensive player go that late in a draft? But that's kind of the way this draft is. This is a heavy offensive player draft. Now, I think it might flip around next year. You've got a few guys, you've got a few defensive dudes. Don't know exactly yet, but Harold Perkins, obviously at LSU, kind of can they figure out how to use him? Abdul Carter from Penn State is an absolute super stud. So, and you don't have a really thick quarterback crop next year. This year, you've got that in receivers and tackles, and so that's going to push defensive players down. But Dallas Turner is just a physical freakazoid stud who I think has really good football in front of him.
Talking to John Harris here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Johnny, there's real momentum to stop or to continue this unlimited transfers and allow colleges themselves to have control of NIL moving forward. But from an unlimited transfers perspective, a lot of us oldies don't like it, but it's the way it's going. But if football were to break away, would you see that going away?
Well, obviously the thought, I don't know when it popped up, probably last week or the week before that, about the 80-team kind of super league or whatever. I think if that were to happen, it's funny, I was thinking about that this morning. And I think because I was anticipating talking about this, I think one of the things those 80 teams would be able to do is say, look, you're going to be allowed a one-time transfer. That's it. Not for graduation, not for anything. They're going to be able to build their own CBA, collective bargaining agreement, for those 80 teams. And I think one of the things those 80 teams will come to grips with is they're going to limit the transfer opportunities. Now, they're not going to take them away. I think they're going to give them that one-time transfer. But you're going to get a one-time transfer potentially within the 80 teams. Maybe not. Maybe what they say is, hey, you're not transferring. Once you end up at a school, you end up at a school. Now, I think that's kind of ridiculous to do it that way, but who's to say? So, but they're going to have their opportunity kind of to write the script the way they want. Do they want a salary cap? How many teams? How do they foresee? Is it 4 20-team divisions? How do they foresee all this going together? What should the salary cap be? How many transfers can they have? What should that look like? What should the academic requirements, all that look like? So I think that breakaway is going to happen. And David, when it does, I think that's going to be one of the major points, not of contention, but of discussion and trying to decide, all right, what do we want in our, what do we want in our college football? And oh, by the way, here's, the other one, they could also work with the NFL too. Like, hey, do players still need to stay 3 years? Is that something that we want to stick with? There could be all kinds of things that can go with this, with this new league if they decide to go with it. But they've already kind of let the cat out of the bag with the transfers. So I actually had dinner last night with a Division I coach, and just kind of listening to the stories of what have happened to him and to his school. It's been incredible. And they came up with their own kind of formula with how they go about it so they can be very clear with the players. And I think that's something that all schools have to do, but it's tough. It's a difficult one. Unlimited transfers. I mean, you could play 1 year at Georgia, 1 year at Alabama, 1 year at Washington, and 1 year at Michigan, and those are your 4 years. I mean, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's good for a player. I don't know if that's good for a player's progress, and I don't know. I don't love it. Again, I'd like to see players stick and stay, and for coaches to be able to recruit new players without having to re-recruit their guys. But then again, that's kind of the way we live now, David. If you look up and free agency's already in it, so might as well go all in, give them unlimited transfers, and see how it goes at that particular point. But I think when they go to the new league, my thought is they'll be able to set that CBA how they want. And in that CBA, they'll be able to say, okay, unlimited transfers, only one transfer, no transfers. This is how we handle transfers. That's going to be obviously a big sticking point. The biggest one being, okay, the schools need to take over I would imagine the schools are going to want to have the authority over the NIL process. That's my guess. And those 80 schools will be able to say, yeah, we're going to take over that process with, collectives are there, but the school is going to, kind of help that stay on track and stay on board with the CBA. But that's what I think is happening. And those 80 teams are going to end up being kind of a minor NFL league. And I don't know if, fans will love that. I don't know. I don't know what the academic situation will be for all that. But it'll be kind of interesting because college football has done nothing but change the last 10 years, and that'll just be more of it.
Talk to you next week, Johnny. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, buddy. See you,
Later,
man.
John Harris there, footballtakeover.com. Go check it out. Great stuff. Right now, Milliken Reserve time. Farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes. They got trails. They got wide open spaces. Their mission, to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done so by just making this sanctuary for life, family, nature, and for each other. They've done such a great job there with their 2,600 acres of open space. They've got the farms. They got the trails. They got the wide open spaces. You'll love when you go out there. For them, it's about connecting families to nature and to each other through an extensive network of trails. They've got a wooded landscape. They've got walking and equestrian paths, creeks, ponds, gathering areas, you name it. They're committed to maintaining and restoring that natural habitat, providing a natural setting for people to connect and come together. You can go hiking there. You can go biking. You can go canoeing. You got the kayaking. You got the equestrian trails, evening yoga, the summer camps, the music festivals, the farmer markets, and the farm tours. Learn more at millikenreserve.com. That website, again, is millikenreserve.com. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for our weekly conversation with Pat Henry, brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store. Save 10% in-store when you mention the code TexAgs10, and check out that great location there at Century Square. Coach Henry, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm not going to give too much info, but there's a possibility we may be doing some more fun track stuff here in the next few weeks.
That's good. I'm glad. I think we can provide you with enough stuff to talk about.
Well, the team's doing great. We got the Olympics coming up. There's a lot of different storylines we can get into. Let's talk about not that rankings are a reflection of how the team is doing, but it's how you finish, right? It's very individual there. Yeah. But both men and women right now ranked number 1, which was released yesterday.
Yeah, we they base it on performances that you've done to this point, of course, just like any sport. So we have been pretty healthy. We've had some great performances. We've done some good things. So it is reflective of where we are right now. As we move forward this weekend, we have a meet this weekend at Florida that'll have 8 or 9 of the SEC schools, most of the ACC, a lot of the ACC will be there. And then there's a scattering team, so there'll be 20 plus schools. So just a tremendous competition this weekend.
Well, the SEC is honoring a couple of your athletes. Let's talk about that tomorrow. Chapman named the SEC Women's Field Athlete of the Week. Was phenomenal there in the heptathlon.
No, she really was. That performance was the number 13 female performance in that event in the history of our country.
Wow.
It tells you how good that was. Mm-hmm. We've had a couple that are right in front of her, but to score 6,200 right now is a great performance, and she leads the country, and she had a great one. Lamara Diston just looks real good right now. I mean, she looks real good. We'll find out a little bit more about her this weekend, and when it's really a different competitive environment this weekend. So I think she's going to be prepared this weekend. Chapman, we won't do very much with right now.
Well, here's a note on Lamara, who, by the way, I feel like we talk about her every week the last couple of years. Yeah. Jumped for the first time, cleared 1.9665. That mark leads the nation.
Yeah, and she looked real good doing it. It's like indoor. She looked really good, and you got to the national meet, and she got beat.
Yeah.
So that's good for her. That was good for her. The national indoor meet was really good for her. She's got to be good every weekend, no matter what, and she's got to be continuing to try to get better every weekend.
Another note: Abigail Martin, for the second consecutive week, wins the SEC Freshman of the Week.
Yeah, new freshman for us. That's a discus thrower. Improved, I think 11 feet this weekend to 196 something. One of the better discus throwers we've ever had, and she's a freshman. So
that tells you something.
We're really glad to have her. She's a well put together young lady too. She's a big, tall lady that is well proportioned, and she can really throw that discus.
Can I ask you an off-script question about so?
I'll give you that answer, but
talented athletes in today's college athletics, though, you're constantly having to re-recruit, especially with what could happen. It looks like the unlimited transfers is a thing. Are track athletes a little bit different mindset when it comes to some of the other sports? Is it the same kind of deal?
No, I think that I think we have a little more stability. But the thing people in my sport, we have 56 men, but we have 12 scholarships.
Right.
That's the NCAA limit. Doesn't divide into 56 very well. So, like athletics used to be, there's a commitment from each one of our athletes to some extent. Not every one of them, but there's a financial commitment to their education. They pay out of their pocket one way or the other. That creates stability.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. I really do. I think that's good.
The team overall won 14 events at the 44 Farms Team Invitational.
Yeah.
Just overall, you felt pretty good?
Yep. Yeah, no, I felt real good. The level of competition continues to get better and better, but our athletes are making the competition. They're making the competition for themselves inside of a competition, and that's what you have to be able to do right now. You have to you got to make your event happen for you on that day.
Yeah.
You can't let something from the outside always be the dictator. It's going to be a dictator, but you have to eliminate the outside noise, and you got to be able to do some things yourself.
Heather, I know you mentioned her earlier, but broke the school record in the women's pole vault with a mark of 4.36.
Yep, 14 foot.
3.5.
Right, yeah, about 3.5 inches. She jumped a little higher in that indoors. But it's early. No, we're in the middle of the track season outdoors right now. So she's getting better. She's going to be good.
And also, I know you don't love this, but sometimes you got to split. This weekend, you guys are splitting between the Tom Jones in Florida and then the Brian Clay Invitational in California.
We're taking 8 people to California.
One of those, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what he can get done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll maybe next week we can tease Eric. He better get it done.
He better get it done.
He better get it done.
Let's go home. Let's get it done. But just talk a little bit more about Florida, because I think this is a big one.
Yeah. Anytime you bring Florida, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, ourselves, you bring Arkansas is taking some people down there. It looks like they're taking their team on the ladies' side, maybe not on the men's side. But anytime you get those specific schools in one place, you're going to have a great competition.
Yeah.
But, Ole Miss throws in, they have some of the better specialty people in the country. Mississippi State's got a great half-miler. They've got a great thrower. They'll be there. So yeah, the SEC and the warm weather schools, but the SEC is going to be always be dominant in our sport.
Coach Henry, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
Next week, I think we're going to do just a little bit longer. We got a couple things planned for the people.
That's good.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you to Brad's Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store. Save 10% of the store when you mention the code TexAgs10. Check out that location in Century Square. When we come back, Jamie Morrison, a little volleyball update. We'll find out what's going on with them. And, of course, get to your phone calls and text messages at 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Radio. I feel like it's I'm looking at the wrong camera. That's embarrassing. I feel like it's like the fall all over again. I got my guy Jamie Morrison in the studio. Hello, sir.
Yeah, hey, it's good to see you. I missed you.
I've missed you too, man.
Yeah, it was a weekly occurrence.
So you texted me maybe a week or two ago, and I remember thinking, I was about to text you. It's like our minds kind of met.
Yeah, we're like simpatico now. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So talk to me about how things are going.
Yeah, going great. I think if you look at the overall kind of arc of things, when I came in, I think on day one, probably being in here, I talked about restoring this program to where it had been and taking it back to the NCAA tournament. And I didn't know if it would happen in year one, but it happened. I thought recruiting-wise, it would take a little bit of time to convince the world that, hey, this is a place you want to come. But number 3 recruiting class in the country in 2025 and number 3 transfer class that we just had come in. So I'm really, really fired up with overall trajectory. And then, man, our girls have been working their butt off this spring.
Number 3. I mean, that's just for where this program was a couple years ago, to say that out loud and for me to hear and to receive that message, that just shows what you've been able to accomplish.
Yep. No, and still for me, I'm looking back at it being like, man, like, thank you for, I don't know, buying into what it is that we think this can be and buying into the people that we have here. And I think it's a product of both of those things. And just I wouldn't be doing it without the staff that's standing behind me. And I think a lot of people, whenever I ask, hey, why, it has to do with people.
You guys did your ladies did so well in their first season with you. The expectations for year 2 there are going to be higher because of the success. And there's some real valuable teaching moments in that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I went to the SEC head coaches meetings, and it took me a while actually for everyone to be like, hey, congratulations on season 1, because I thought we were maybe 3 wins better. And I think every head coach is along those lines. You look back at those 3 matches and you're like, man, I wish I had those back. And then I got to the point where I'm like, hey, it's year 1. We made the tournament. Like, it's okay to accept this a little bit. Then I went to the SEC meetings and everyone's like, oh, watch out for year 2.
Yeah.
And just I'm not, I don't know, shiny and new, and everything that I'm saying isn't new. And you got to, I don't know, squeeze a little bit harder at the culture. So we've had some talks this spring about that, but our girls have worked hard for, I think, we're 90% of the way through it right now. And they've been grinding. They've been, enjoying the time. And even yesterday we had a talk after practice, just that, hey, it wasn't, necessarily the most enthusiastic practice, but we were focused and we got better. But trying to infuse that enthusiasm at the end of it, because it's very similar to what's going to happen next year when we hit October and November.
Not to make a friendly competition, but the back of your mind, you see Trisha year 2 having so much success, and Joni having so much success in year 2. Does that play a role in the back of your mind? I got to keep my game up.
I actually thought about this. Like, I'm competitive. Like, I want to be. I don't know. I'm a competitive in a different sense. I think there's other people that are like, I want to win this game. I'm like, I want to prove that I'm the best.
Yeah.
But man, I'm so happy for all of them. I think if you look at what baseball's doing, also, I know it's not year 2, but like. I think our head coaching group has gotten a little bit closer over the last, 9 months or something like that. And just, I fully support everything going on. But there's also a bit of me like, all right, I got to get my stuff together. Same thing, I was coaching U19s last year. Joni went off and won a gold medal. And I'm like, I have to go win a gold medal.
Right.
And again, I'm extremely excited. And I don't know, man, talking about excited for somebody else, Joni get to go coach in the Olympics. I get chills as I'm saying that because I've been there and done that, but it's a really cool thing. So sorry, mild tangent there, but I think I feel pushed to go do it in year 2. I'm also a little bit of the, hey, I don't know, success takes time, especially sustained success. So I'm patient in that, but I think it shows what this university can do also.
Also, you got to be excited to have Trev here, who has shown a commitment to providing assets to volleyball and really being a part of it.
Yeah, when I don't know, for those of you that aren't in the know about volleyball, but last year the University of Nebraska hosted a volleyball match in their football stadium and had an attendance record for volleyball of 92,436 or something along those lines. And I immediately got like 25 emails being like, how do we do this in Kyle Field? And I feel like Trev got hired, and I immediately got another 20 emails.
Yeah.
So it's happening, and I'm not going to write that off if it's not happening. It's not happening next year, just to throw that out there. But I think we got to build to the point to getting that. But for me, it's awesome to have somebody that knows what our sport can be.
Yep.
That it can be profitable. He's brought that up in his press conference. Like, Nebraska is the only program in the country that's profitable. I'd love to be number 2. He knows what it's like to build a sustained fan base around what we're doing, that people do care about this.
Yep.
If you look at what just happened in women's basketball from college, like, women's sports are starting to grow and grow and grow, and volleyball's on that bandwagon too. So for me, it's exciting to have somebody that knows what it can be and that can help me get there.
Let's talk about the European tour: Turkey, Croatia, Italy, and that's going to be at the end of May 25th through June 2nd.
Yeah. So for me, it's important for a few different reasons to take our athletes overseas. I want our program to be a bridge for people that want to go play professionally. And right now, the two best leagues in the world are probably Turkey and Italy. And I think the United States, with what's happening, we have 3 different professional opportunities that are going to be happening starting next year. And I think those will start to push into that top 2, top 3 category. But I want our athletes to get a taste of what that looks like and feels like. That they have an understanding of, like, hey, they can play beyond this if they want to. And that's not a forced thing here. So that was number 1. And number 2, just I think I'm the person and the man, and I don't know, in terms of skills, the ability to deal with difficult moments, because I spent a lot of time overseas. Because I was stuck in a taxi cab trying to communicate with somebody in Turkish of how to get down the street, and that just stretched my ability of what uncomfortable is. So for me, that piece also of taking our athletes and putting them in some of those environments where they get to do that both individually and as a team is really, really important.
Well, we've had other programs go, overseas or go to an island, I think the Bahamas and other places. It's a real bonding moment for the team to kind of grow together, just from a spiritual and just teammates.
Yeah, and I just, again, like, there's the difficulty piece where, like, you're having to deal with some difficult things or some fun stuff that happens. There's some storytelling that happens around your team of, like, things that most teams don't get to do. And for those that are out there that don't know, college athletics, we're allowed to go once every 4 years. But I think it's a really cool opportunity for I think one of my superpowers as a coach is the ability to train, and just getting my team for another 25 days is huge. But secondly, like, the important thing is that my team gets a chance to be around each other in some really cool and unique environments.
Talk to me about spring season and how important it is for the fall, what you all accomplish here.
So important. The fall, you have the pressure of winning a match every single week or 2. And a lot of it gets geared around, like, all right, how do we beat Tennessee? How do we beat Texas? They're coming into the conference. And it's really hard to, what I call, break skills. And in the spring, there's no pressure. Like, you go play a spring match, it's just a test of what's happening, but it doesn't go on our record. No one, is counting that in any record book or anything going on. So it's a chance to really kind of shatter each individual skill of our sport and say, hey, let's put it back together the way it should be, or the way that fits you. So for me, the spring is our chance to test things out, to be in a laboratory, to let our athletes kind of go crazy. And I think our girls have done a really good job of that. And I think all of the skills of the game.
It allows younger players to get more run too.
Yeah, no, you get to play around some different lineups, and I would love to get to the point where our practice gym is the most competitive environment that we have. So that doesn't worry me as much, but we do get everyone a chance to get on the floor and develop in that sense also.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about the U19s again. You're going to be doing it 4th year?
Third. 4th year. You're right.
4th year.
Yeah, 4th year.
You excited?
Yeah, you know better than me. I am. It's daunting. Once May hits, my life pretty much ends here. So there's some other stuff with USA Volleyball. They've done a really good job of kind of the development pipeline of trying to scoop up more athletes at a younger age and then kind of have that funnel into less athletes as they get to the national team. So I'm leading up a thing in May also they call the National Team Development Series. National Team Development Program Training Series. So that'll be about 50, 60 athletes, somewhere in there. So that's, beginning of May, and then it kicks into some stuff for us recruiting, and then it kicks into training block for U19s, and it snowballs here pretty quickly. But excited. It's always an honor to do that. It's always a challenge to do that. The one thing about our country, and the reason why I think volleyball's growing, is just the talent base is growing so much. So going through roster selections and trying to narrow that list is definitely a cause of lost sleep. But like I said, it's an honor to do it. It's really cool to have those athletes in a gym and know that I'm making an impact on their lives going forward, that we're changing their trajectory, I think both as a volleyball player and human being, similar to what we do to our program, but helping those athletes get into the national team gym one day.
All right, let's close out with this. So you already mentioned you wanted 2-3 more wins, obviously, right? And you want to keep winning. But a year into this thing, and some change, is the program, not the wins and losses, the program. And I think the wins are excellent. Is the program where you thought it would be a year into it?
We're 2 to 3 years ahead of where I thought.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I like every time I try to be like, hey, we should have had 2 or 3 more wins. I'm like, man, hey, take a step back. look at the long-term vision of this and where I thought it would be recruiting-wise, where I thought it would be, I don't know, transfer portal-wise, like the amount of athletes that are buying into what we're doing, both the athletes that are here buying in, I don't know, heart and soul to what we're doing, to the point where they're coming into practice every single day saying, hey, mold me into what I should be and can be. And then the recruits that have, I don't know, committed here, both from a, I think, I don't know, commitment standpoint, but from a commitment standpoint that, like, hey, they believe in this university, they believe in our program, they believe in my coaching staff, they believe in me. And again, chills 3 times in one interview, but like, it's a huge honor that like people are not buying into, I don't know, what has been done necessarily, but what could be. And I think it's what has been done to this point too. Like, that's where I'm like, I look at this next recruiting class that's going to come up and I'm like, man, we have proof right now that it's headed in the right direction. Whereas before it was people truly believing in what we were saying. And I don't think there's any greater honor than that when people buy into who you are.
Jamie, I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah,
I miss you, man.
I miss you too. We'll do this more often.
Yeah, we'll do it more often for sure. We'll catch up with you on the road too, right?
Yeah, appreciate it.
That is Jamie Morrison. We'll come back with more on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. On Tuesday, April 16th, there's going to be a benefit lunch honoring Mark Massey, a young man who's fighting brain cancer, and our community needs to step it up. So we're going to talk about it right here because we've got Morgan Mangan and Juliana Garcia here in studio to talk all about it. How are you, friends?
Good. How are you?
I just found out you worked here.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Were you on air?
Only when they forced me to be.
Okay.
Every once in a while. But I preferred to be back behind
the scenes?
Yeah.
And you were literally at the baseball game yesterday.
Yes.
And you say you watched the show.
Oh, yeah. No, I watch every morning. Like, if I don't catch all of it in the morning, I just play it in the afternoon.
Super. Well, we love that. Billy's built an empire here. Let's talk a little bit about Mark, because this story touched me, obviously. 10 years old, fighting brain cancer, and I think he found out not that long ago, right?
Yeah, not long ago. So his mother works for us. That's how we know her. And in January, he was having some headaches. They went in. Obviously didn't expect this and found out that he's got a pretty aggressive brain tumor. So he actually just completed this last week 30 radiation treatments.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. And their whole life has been turned upside down.
Oh, yeah. They were driving to Houston every single day from College Station.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And how are, because I was reading on the care page how he's handling it. How's and by the way, from what I read, he's not complaining. He's just going at it like a little soldier. If you guys can, Juliana, can you kind of shed some light into that?
Yeah. So the family, I can't even imagine having to deal with that, but they're dealing with it as well as they possibly can, as well as he has an older brother that is 13. So, that can be a little difficult as well for him handling that. But she actually sent me a video last night. He was feeling good. He got a new bat for Christmas. And so he and Jameson were out and they were hitting around a ball. So that was really cool. So right now it's good days, and it just sort of depends, but he's being an absolute trooper through this whole situation. It's just been a real blessing to be able to watch that in such a difficult time.
How are the parents handling it?
Better than I would. It's really impressive. They've got this Caring Bridge page, and Brian, his dad, updates it pretty regularly. He's a great writer. So it's nice to be able to follow along, and you can hear, you can read the emotion that they're obviously dealing with, but we've seen them and we've been around them both, and they handle it really well. They're very positive, and I think they have to be for Mark and for his brother, but really well. I mean, they're great people and they're a great family.
And they're a baseball family?
Oh, yeah. Sports family.
Sports family in general?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the lunch, too, because where's it going to be? At 1645 Greens Prairie Road, and tell me a little bit about what's the options.
So that's our office location in South College Station. We are hosting a benefit this coming Tuesday, the 16th, from 11 to 3. We're going to be cooking hamburgers, so I think we'll share the link with you guys, but you can buy a ticket to get a lunch. We also are opening up a silent auction tomorrow that goes live, where we have some pretty cool sports packages, trips, hunting, all kinds of stuff. But all proceeds are going to go to Mark and his family to help with their, medical costs, travel to Houston, all of that.
And I'm looking at this 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock there at your location, $15 plates, that unless they run out of food. Some of the food is going to have burgers with all the fixings, a bag of chips, drinks, dessert, and you can park across the street at the yard.
Yes.
Burgers are good? Who's making them?
Burgers at my father-in-law. One of our realtors that works with us, her family raises Wagyu beef down in South Texas. They're donating the patties. So it's going to be really good beef. But my father-in-law and my husband will be out there cooking it, so it'll be fresh. HEB is donating a lot of the produce for that. So everybody's kind of pitched in. It's been a community effort, and we really appreciate everybody.
Well, mention that they love sports. And baseball wins with a walk-off yesterday, so hopefully that brought a little bit of a smile to the family. All right, so let's go through the details again. It's going to be Tuesday, April the 16th, 1645 Greens Prairie Road, Suite 404 there, 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, $15 plates. You will share the website with us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also the silent auction is also online. So it doesn't have to be you don't have to be physically there to look at everything and bid. It can be wherever. So it'll run starting tomorrow at noon all the way till 11 p.m. Tuesday night.
Well, hopefully TexAgers are listening, will respond. Can you give him a hug from TexAgs from us, all right?
Absolutely, we will. Yeah. We appreciate you guys having us on.
Yeah, he's not fighting this alone, so thank you both for coming into studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, when we come back here on TexAgs Radio, let's go home. Ryan Brauninger will be in studio. We'll talk to him about baseball. We'll do a little recruiting country. We'll get to your text messages and your phone calls. At 10:35, Kendall Rodgers from D1 Baseball will join us. We'll have to go through that walk-off victory last night and look ahead to the Vanderbilt series. That and much, much more. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area, the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online, caprockhealthsystem.com. Hello, Ryan.
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
Good. It was a fun night at the ballpark last night. I want to get into some baseball, but after recruiting. I would prefer always when I come on-air production meeting to always let's do recruiting first, and then we'll talk baseball in the second segment if we have time.
But we can still say it was a long night. It was a good night for you.
It started really rough. We'll get into it, like I said, but
no, I'm just saying it was a fun night.
It was a fun night.
Yeah,
and I'm a doofus on the radio, and stepped on Monaco's toes on the home run call, so I apologize for that. And
oh, looky here.
Huh. A pelt to left field. For his third home run.
We don't have your mic set up.
Let's go home. He did! Olsen Magic Jackson Appel, his third home run of the game, gives the...
Did we miss it? Oh, I missed it.
You missed it. You must have missed it. Impromptu visit. What's up?
No, not much. Just want to talk a little baseball or recruiting with you guys.
Let's go home.
Let's go home.
Oh, is this pre-planned? That's great. That's so good. Well, I'm glad you guys did that.
Well, time out. As you know, it would have been a lot better if I didn't involve Nuño.
Well, I mean, you coming in here is awkward. That's the most.
You're just looking at me to do something, and you didn't tell me what to do.
No, I did.
You told me you were going to say it, and we're going to walk out.
Here was the plan. I'll tell you. Savage knows it. They all knew it. He was supposed to make it like, first of all, you were surprised I came in. He was supposed to tell you that, hey, Billy's going to do the first segment with us today.
No, you told me not to tell him.
Look, hey, strike one.
It's fake.
He was supposed to play that clip during hour number 1 talking about the game, not right before where it's like, let's go home, let's go home. So that kind of...
That's on Nick.
That's clunky. Then he was supposed to just introduce it. This is where I come in. Maybe I messed up because I was a little late. So that's on
shocker.
Me. Not much, though.
You were actually pretty close.
Then he was supposed to ask you a question. All right, well, recruiting country, a lot going on, Brauninger. And as soon as you started talking, I was going to interrupt you, like right when you started and go, let's go home. And then me and Nuño were going to. So think about how.
I love the idea. Yeah, love that idea.
Wait, that might have been right, but he called me at 10:36.
9:36.
I think it was closer
9:36.
Was it?
I was on my way home from the game.
Let's double check.
Okay.
You might be right. It
I
felt
was walking
late.
my dog at 10:30. That's why I know that.
Okay, let's see.
I love the idea.
Following Shell Winkley and Max Crawford.
You know,
you're exactly right. Holy
garage.
smokes.
Yeah.
Well, I usually go to bed at 9:15. But I was awake.
You can't be trusted to fully execute, you know.
Well, you
maybe a previous head coach would be disappointed with you guys and your lack of execution.
Execute.
Yeah.
Well,
but I love the idea. Thanks.
I like the call. I'll give you a hard time when it's necessary.
You did.
It was a good call. The funny part though was at first I was like, he was not even letting Monaco finish. You're like, is that another one? Like, and then
by the way, this is exactly the phone call we had last night.
But then,
I had the same one.
But the let's go home and the timing of that was good. And it was like you could still hear Monaco going, and then you hear the other guy, you know, let's go home. It gave me a good feel of like, I told him be careful, he's going to become the Homer, you know, Bama lunatic caller, the Auburn guy on the kick six. But I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually good listening if you're an Aggie.
Let's go home shirts will sell, I'm telling you.
But we don't do merch here.
But we can.
We haven't done it in 15 years, and I don't know how much money. They're convinced that it won't sell.
Don't care, got Jimbo.
I think the TexAgs family would love random-ass merch with things like that, or Easy There, Big Shooter, or just anything that kind of comes up. The Go Hour, any of my stupidity. Like, people...
I want B-team shirts. I told you that.
That's a force. That's
B-team?
Yeah, I don't think so.
You're forcing that. Yeah. That last night was not a force.
I've got people coming after you now. I've got a growing swell. You talking about your DMs in the office the other day?
Yeah.
I got a growing swell of DMs ready to take you down.
I don't want to know about your growing swell of anything.
I'm sure, trust me, I know about me. But I know of somebody that, well, never mind. I'm not going to go
Don't do that on this radio show.
Let's talk a little recruiting.
You want to talk a little recruiting?
Well, first, I got a meeting with Luke Skywalker, Baby Huey,
and Nikolai Hobby-Bulin.
And I read that as Cabibulin, and that's why to me Dalton looks like a Cabibulin. So,
sell scar?
The game last night.
Okay.
You did say you wanted to talk recruiting, so he hit you with a Celiscar, then you go back to baseball.
Celiscar, first baseball.
Okay.
Opposite. That was awesome. That was awesome last night. Play as poorly as they did early, hang in there, win the game. The game by Appel obviously is incredible. I mean, incredible. Just 3 home runs, but as you've probably already talked about the way he hit those, or y'all probably do it here at the end, but. That was just a fun Tuesday night. There's been some fun Tuesday nights for sure. And
they've played a lot of close Tuesday night games, regardless of the competition.
So I'm saying it's amazing they've won every one of them. The two least competitive Tuesday night games I feel like are at Texas State and in Austin against Texas. When you looked at the schedule, you said those two are the 2 biggest danger zone ones, much less you kind of just assume they would be competitive. I don't know if it's Texas Southern, if it's Prairie View, if it's Sam, if it's UTSA, Lamar. I mean these Tuesday nighters. I don't know how many teams can say right now that they've been unscathed on Tuesdays. In fact, who lost last night? Clemson,
Duke.
Did Kentucky lose?
Florida
Kentucky
demolished by Florida State.
Yeah, but I mean that's a legitimate. But like we're talking about like mid majors beating ranked teams.
So it happens all the time, and for them to win all these close ones is impressive. And look, here's my thing on baseball, Bronny. It feels very like you won a series at South Carolina. If you would have lost that game Saturday night, and I always talk to Slosh about this kind of stuff because I'm like, you lose that Saturday night game and win Sunday the same way you won Saturday night. You take the exact same results and flip-flop them. You feel so much better leaving Columbia when really the result is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. But if you flip-flop those, so you lose Sunday, let's say you just continue to kind of kick it around and muddle through that one last night and you lose to UTSA. Now you've lost 2 in a row and you got Vandy coming in. It's just like, to me, that was actually a bigger win even than it. Winning that game for just momentum purposes and feel-good purposes and not having to go, damn, we lost 2 in a row. That hadn't happened in a while. I think that's more important than the damage that would have been done by losing that game.
I think it highlights a couple of things last night. One of the things I said on Monday with you after the Schloss interview was that this team, they can, because of their talent level, they can go out and play really poorly on a night, and you have somebody take the reins and win you a game. You saw that last night with Jackson Appel. But it's another data point in that this team is not just talented.
Right.
It matters to them that they win these games.
Yeah.
And obviously Appel had a huge hand in it, but if you just talk about Jackson Appel, you completely overlook the Brock Peary outing. You completely overlook Chris Cortez was sensational last night. First and second, nobody out in the 7th inning. They ended up getting to a 2nd and 3rd scenario. He strikes out the side. And the offense pounded out 11 hits, and they left an army on the bases. Like, if they get one more hit early, that game may look completely different. But they did not play well. That was as bad as they've played all season through the first 3 innings, without question. And with a good team in the other dugout. UTSA is 7-2 in their league with a top 10 conference series win over number 9 East Carolina. That's a good ball club.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like you were rallying back from against a SWAC opponent. Like, you did that against a real team.
No, that's an impressive win in a lot of ways. And by the way, I don't like losing to teams like that 2 years in a row.
Well, they came in here last year and gave you the business.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that matters too. Like, it's a little thing, but I mean, program pride to me, and they're undefeated against state teams this year, but just program pride to say, hey, like, Sam Houston, you guys beat us last year. That ain't happening again. Was it Texas State too, or no? It was Sam last year,
and UTSA last year.
Yeah, and obviously UTSA, but one of those two beat us last year too. Sam or Texas State.
Sam.
And no, not 2 years in a row. It ain't happening. We're Texas A&M. I know it's baseball. I know the gap is less, especially in the portal era, but you're UTSA. You're not going to make a habit of coming in here to College Station and beating us. So little things like that, too, I think I like to see it. I don't know what it really and truly meant, but I like to see it as a fan.
Well, there's only 4 midweeks left the remainder of the year. So Air Force, Tarleton, U of H, and Rice. Right. I mean, let's just say the worst case scenario that A&M splits those.
Right.
Then that would mean they go 23-2 on the season in the non-conference. That's an incredible mark.
Incredible. Well, hopefully, I'd like to see them go undefeated in the non-conference.
For sure.
Because they'll have some pretty important non-conference games after Hoover as well.
Mm-hmm.
From a coaching standpoint, Bronny, not Schloss per se, but coaches, do they want that as a teachable moment? I mean, because sometimes you got to get close to losing. It's hard to teach things in wins, but that kind of win, I feel like there's
I think it does more for the team confidence of we can play as poorly as possible and still win a game against a good team. I think that goes a long way for the clubhouse, for the dugout mentality. And Jackson Appel talked about it in the post-game interview we had with him, me and Monaco, and talked about how nothing changed throughout the course of that game. Like, nobody ever addressed, like, made a big deal to call a dugout meeting about cleaning. Like, you just keep playing the game. And they understand because of how talented they are that they're going to have chances to come back. And, Jackson Appel doesn't have a storybook night without the outing of Chris Cortez. It just doesn't happen. And, Jace had a double. Braden had a single. Gavin had a single. But they also, Braden Montgomery hasn't driven anybody in. And Braden also had a double last night.
4 games, maybe?
Yeah. How often is that going to happen?
Not.
How often is you get a runner at third and no outs? Is anybody in the country going to go punch out against this lineup when 2 of those are Gavin Grahovic and Jace Lavalette? So there was some out of characteristic stuff, even from the offense, who had 11 hits. But again, it's the game of baseball. Like, you're going to have that. They're going to have that exact same night at some point against an SEC opponent. And now they know that even when we're playing poorly, we can right the ship and give ourselves a chance to win.
Yeah, they got plenty of games in this body of work now to look back on. Wins, a couple losses. That Auburn series I thought was these last 2 SEC series I thought were real, growth moments for the team too. Just to have to fight and claw and hang on to that sweep and win a couple of, almost blow a massive lead, and then Sunday or Saturday night, the way that extra inning, that Auburn series is one that I think, to me, I kind of put an asterisk by. And then also the Florida one. You saw them drop 2 there. They went up to South Carolina and flipped it around and won 2. And I'm not sure South Carolina's not a better team than Florida.
They beat North Carolina last night.
Yeah. Nuño, talk commitment real quick before I run.
Commitment? You're talking about
Josh Seliskar.
Oh, yeah. Seliskar, I'm sorry. Yeah, from yesterday that I didn't see it coming, and bam, they got another guy on the defensive line.
I don't think any of us did.
No, Monday, he comes in and or Monday comes out and he commits, and it was one of those rare times, right, where we're making phone call.
I'm like, is this a real commitment? And then you start looking him up, because
as soon as you saw his stats, you knew
this is a real commitment. Like, this isn't some kind of walk-on deal. But yeah, it's one of the few times that I can ever remember of us being completely caught off guard from a name we'd never even heard of.
Yeah, I know. And look, if you followed us since this coaching transition, I think the recruiting information has been as good as it's ever been. Mm-hmm. And for that to happen, that was under the radar. I wonder how quickly it came together. Probably very much so. But it's a nice depth pick. I say depth. He's going to play. Yeah, it adds to your depth is what I mean by it. He's not like hey, we need a 5th interior D lineman or we need a 4th defensive end. No, I mean, he's going to play. But you look at his statistics and his numbers at UCF, and he was going to have to fight. They have some – I've done a little research. They've had some guys he was going to have to fend off to, keep that full-time starting. The guys, though, started almost 40 games in his career, and this year started all season in the Big 12.
Team captain.
I love that, too, by the way. 2-time team captain. And I love that, roughly 25 tackles for loss, 150 tackles. This is a veteran leader, You know, that's what you're getting in him, but he also is a guy that's proven he can make plays. He's a big SEC caliber body. I read he looks like a guy that could play that strong side in Elko's defense or move inside if he needs to on passing downs.
Well, I think, too, we got to look at, with the commitment of Landon Rink in the high school ranks and then the addition of Celiscar, look, that's 6 additions out on the defensive line since December. You go back to Kendall Jackson, Solomon Williams, Nick Scorton, Cassius Howell, Rodis Johnson, and now Celiscar.
Well, you lost a few, too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen at that position. Obviously, the passing of Terry Price took a big hit on it, but then when Elijah chose to pursue that job in Syracuse, that was a position that had been so well recruited and so well developed for a long time that I think a lot of A&M fans and even us as analysts were looking at it and going, okay, like you really need to keep that train running. And for Sean Spencer and Tony Girardetti, I think you'd have to give them a huge check mark in that box since they've arrived and like really taken a hold here in College Station. They've been sensational. And they're going to sign, like, what happens if your next defensive line addition is out of the high school ranks and it's DJ Sanders?
Yeah. Here's my thing with some of these things. Like, there are certain things that you just have to do. You're at Texas A&M as a football coach, and your program has to, when you're playing in the SEC, you have to recruit elite talent and depth on the defensive line. If you don't, your tenure will result in a failure.
Right.
So you have to. So Mike Elko put a lot of thought into hiring Sean Spencer and to promoting Tony Girardetti to that spot, to give him his first full-time on-field, full-time recruiting, coaching job. There was a lot that went into that because no one knows that better than Elko. You look at his D-lines at Notre Dame, at A&M when he was the DC, even at Duke. He knows without that, I don't care how good a DC is, it's not going to work. And it's damn sure not going to work in the SEC where you have to stop the run and you have to stop it week in and week out against some of the best offenses in college football, not just scheme-wise, but talent, particularly in the backfield. So, yeah, they're going to continue to load up, but I think with a full cycle, you mentioned Sanders, you saw what they did with Rink, who you and I know has been a prime target for them from day one. I think you're going to see that D-line recruiting not miss a beat. We haven't seen – they're just scratching the surface right now. But so far, the most impressive gets to me for this group, and I like this addition Monday. I really do when you dig into it and think of what A&M needs. But I think the most impressive additions to the group have been obviously Nick Scorton and also to go out and get Landon Rink just because forget about the rankings or whatever. They're kind of all over the map a little bit with him. But just knowing, Brawny, how they prioritized him from the jump and who they had to beat to get him.
Yeah, and combination of that and the type of culture that I expect him to bring to the locker room. And then we understand that that's a big need that's going to be addressed with Coach Elko as he tries to kind of change the mindset and the thinking over there. I agree. I wrote it this week. Like you've got to kind of tip your hat to Sean Spencer and Tony Girardetti, who, I'm pumped for Tony. Billy, you know him pretty well. Like, we thought he was going to be a pretty good coach, and, like, he's really starting to make a name for himself now that he's a full-time position coach. Sean Spencer comes in with a reputation of being a good recruiter. But Tony, there was really a little bit more of a roll of the dice and a gamble for Mike Elko to promote him to be a full-time guy, and it's certainly, paying off right now.
And the roll of the dice has nothing to do with Tony.
It's just
it has to do is what you could go get on the open market with the checkbook that Texas A&M wields and with Elko's connections, and that just tells you even more so what he thought of Tony. Mm-hmm. And this didn't happen once Elko got here. You know the guy. His research before he took this job, if you think that he didn't dig in and know about every single person working in that building, and I mean from support staff to secretary, all points in between. Like, he probably knew and talked to everyone before he accepted such a job and left a place where he was really feeling good about it over there at Duke. So he knew everything there was to know about Tony, and it just kind of tells you he's been a key cog for a while here kind of quietly, and so it's nice to see him get promoted. And then fare well so far on the recruiting front. And I think it's only going to get better as he gains more experience.
Thank you,
All
Billy.
right.
Appreciate you.
We can go have a fun meeting. I can promise you guys this is a lot more fun than what I'm about to go sit through.
Sorry for butchering the let's go home.
I know.
I think
I don't think it was butchered. I really enjoyed it.
he kept on looking at me. I was like, I guess he wants me to do it.
It's all right, David.
You're asking Billy to communicate something cohesively.
Let's go home to the meeting. All right.
Please, dude, this guy was asleep at 9:15.
All right. We're going to hit a break here. We'll come back with more Recruiting Country here on TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio, the Big Dummy on YouTube. Not a fan of hearing basketball or soccer talk or apparently track talk, but he likes recruiting, so we're going to continue recruiting and let the Big Dummy be the program director of the show.
Are you sure that's not somebody in the back just trolling you?
He was actually talking to other people.
Oh, okay.
He wouldn't say that to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I know how people are. People do not come up to me and be rude. Like, there's no one has ever come up to me at the gym and been rude.
Lucky you.
Let's talk a little bit about Hassan Longstreet. Is it Sunday he's announcing?
The 14th. What day is that? Is that Sunday? Yes, Sunday. Today's
I'm good
the
with
10th.
Dates. Yeah.
Yep. Marcus Garcia that day as well.
Also
That's
both.
Two premier A&M targets. Garcia, high upside offensive lineman out of Denton Ryan.
Okay.
Positional versatility, could play anywhere along the line of scrimmage, even center, I guess, if you really wanted him to. But could project at either guard spot or either tackle spot. Has good track numbers throwing, so he shows some explosiveness there. And I don't think he's a dual sport kid, but I know that at one point there was some talk of him potentially trying to throw as well in college.
Yep.
But A&M has been right there. Adam Cushing has been right there in it for a while with Marcus, and he's part of that just insane DFW offensive line group, and really that offensive line group throughout the state of Texas. We saw a couple of them come in this past weekend, high priority targets. But, yeah, I feel pretty good about where A&M's at for Garcia. Huson Longstreet's a quarterback out of California who has been pinned at the top seemingly of Colin Klein's big board, nationally since he came and got the job here at Texas A&M. And love the tape, really quick release, a lot of dual threat abilities. And there's also enough upside there. So he doesn't look maxed out in terms of his potential. I know he went out to the Elite 11 camp, got his Elite 11 finals invite, and was outstanding in that camp. His measurements, hand size is a big deal for quarterback. Yep. I think he had the biggest hands at that Elite 11 camp. And so it's going to come down, I think, to A&M and Auburn. He's coming off of visits to both. And I think those are the final two. We still feel pretty good. We're less confident about Longstreet than we are Garcia. I think somebody would have to overtake A&M this week for Garcia. For Longstreet, it's more toward a coin flip.
Okay. When you watch him I'm talking about Longstreet on film, does he compare to anybody we've seen recently?
I think if you look at guys on campus, he's more like Marcel Reed, but very differently built. Stocky, sturdier than Marcel, but it's a similar skill set, although it may not demonstrate the same way. You understand what I'm saying? Their games come out differently, but they have similar skill sets. I think that would probably be a pretty good comp. I haven't really sit down and studied if there's anybody off the top of my head that he reminds me of. There's actually another kid in the state of Texas that they have similar games, Ty Hawkins out of San Antonio Johnson. He's committed to TCU and never really got an offer from A&M, but when you look at both of them play and how they're built, very similar.
Okay, very similar in there. And then when you talk about Marcus Garcia, is his comp?
He's light. He's only 255, 260 pounds right now, which ain't that big of a deal for an offensive lineman. You know how these young kids, the weight can stick to them, and before you know it, he's 6'5", 310 pounds, seemingly within 12 months. But a little bit lighter right now, but that's still, you can still see that he's got the proper measurables, very flexible, dexterous, good feet, light on his feet. So there's a lot of qualities, even at 260 pounds, that you're going, okay, athletically, he should maintain those attributes with the requisite weight and strength gain for playing in this league. So, that's why I think positional versatility comes into effect there, because he's got long enough arms to play on the edge, but he also has enough power profile that you could play him inside too.
Yeah, I believe that. Is there a position in the portal that you have your eye on this cycle?
Wide receiver.
Yeah.
Linebacker.
More defensive line, potentially?
I wanted them. I've said on the show multiple times that I thought I would like to see them go add one more guy that could play inside, and I think Selascar is that guy. So if you go into the fall for more or less what you got, I think you'd be pretty good with it. I think the staff would be pretty good with it. That's a really talented group. It's got some experience in there. It's got some different body styles, some different body types in there. And so it's a well-rounded room for Coach Spencer and Coach Tony Girardetti. I think Mike Elko would be pleased with what he's got there. But wide receiver and linebacker, I think if you could go out and find a guy that you are convinced is not just a depth guy, this is an impact player, I think at either of those positions that you'd make a move.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they're completely unhappy with those positions.
Right.
But those are two spots where, we talked a bunch about the other linebacker spot opposite Torian York and how important that's going to be, not to completely recreate what Edgerrin Cooper did, but between whoever that guy is that's playing next to Torian and Torian, you need to kind of replicate the numbers if you can, right? That would be ideal, I think, for the defense next year. So finding somebody, if there's somebody out there that they are convinced can come in and be an impact player, I think you take them. But look, our buddy Josh Pate has talked a lot about this, that portal madness is not going to be just restricted to Texas A&M. It's going to happen all across the country. We've already seen reports of Bear Alexander from USC going into the portal. Damian Martinez, a former Texas kid that's at running back at Oregon State with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. So there's going to be premier players even still going into the portal from across the country. So when it happens at Texas A&M, don't be surprised. There's no reason to get up in arms. It's kind of part of what college football is now. So you just got to be prepared for it. And the good news for A&M fans is that you have a head coach and a staff now that is going to be proactive and not reactive in terms of fighting it.
All right, this weekend, a lot of people visiting. Talk about it.
Well, it's last weekend, a lot of people visiting.
Nobody's coming this weekend?
We will have to check on that. I would imagine they're going to have guys in. They're never going to leave an opportunity. They're not going to go through an opportunity and not have kids come in for a practice. But last weekend, the visitor list was really impressive. Keati Armstrong, the Jasper tight end. Jackson Christian, offensive lineman from Port Neches Groves, who was here actually on Thursday and on Saturday last week. Javian Osborne was here as the 2026 running back from Forney. You had 2 new offers go out. Carday Mack, a 26 running back from Atascocita, and then 2027 running back from Katy, Myson Johnson Cook. You ought to see this kid. He'll be a sophomore next season for Katy. 6'3", 200 pounds, and is running in the 4.4s. That's crazy for being that big, that early, and that fast. And I would imagine in the Katy offensive system, he's going to have a big fall. But those 2 guys get offers. You had
26 and 27.
Yeah, you had Keelan Russell, the quarterback at Duncanville in town, committed to SMU, but has really started to see some recruiting interest, kind of his stock skyrocket across the country. It'd be interesting to see if the Mustangs can hold on to him. I'm blank. I've done so much. I was literally sitting out there doing these recruiting interviews and taking headshots of all these kids and also listening to the baseball game at South Carolina and trying to keep up with that. So it's all kind of muddled. But these visitor weekends have been hugely productive for A&M. Now, they maybe not have a result in commitments, but it continues to give these top targets that keep showing up an idea of what the program is going to look like under Mike Elko, and they get more and more comfortable with it. And the expectations are starting to change from what they're going to see when they get on campus. So whether they result in immediate commitments or not, I do think they are laying the groundwork to get some down the road when we get into May, June, and through those summer officials.
All right, Bronny, thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you.
That is recruiting country.
I'm glad Billy came in here and stole all my baseball time.
Well, the whole thing was a train wreck. But what you thought it was good?
Let's go home.
Let's go home. How did you say it last night, though? I want that same vigor.
It's hard. I got to be watching.
Did you know immediately?
Not immediately, but
you said it before it got over.
Well, yeah, because it's the crazy thing about all the home runs, and we've got the TrackMan analytics pulled up there right in front of us. They were almost all identical. So they all went to left field. They all were within probably a 2 or 3 mile an hour range on the exit velocities and launch angles, like in terms of degrees. It was crazy. So when he hit it and I looked at the ball leave the bat and I looked down at TrackMan and it looked like all those other ones, I'm going, okay, like all those other ones went out. This one should go out too. And I don't know, it was just an in the moment. It was funny because during the commercial break, me and Andrew were talking to the producer back at the mothership for Learfield. And he was talking about, man, this thing doesn't need to go on for a while. And I'm like, yeah, there's rain coming. Like the last thing that you would want is to sit around here all night, have San Antonio UTSA drive over, and then you get into extra innings and you've got to call the game in a tie. You know what I'm saying?
It's a waste.
Let's have a winner and a loser. And ideally, let's get it done here. We actually, all 3 of us, the producer, Andrew, and I, all called Braden. Hey, Braden's going to end it right here, right? Braden, first pitch pop up. And then Appel just walks up. Just like it's almost like this is what he does to opposing pitchers. It's like they get through those top 3. Like, all right, I got Braden out.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely, like Jackson Appel's, he's added his name, I think, to that. It's not a top 3 anymore. It's a top 4. And with the way that Teddy Burton and Hayden Schott are swinging the bat, you're starting to go, okay, is it top 6?
Yeah.
You know, so and that's what makes this team so deadly is that you lead off the game or you start the lineup with those 3 first-round draft potential picks, right? And then the next 3 guys are like 23-year-old college baseball players with hundreds of at-bats.
Yeah.
So where they may be giving up a little in overall baseball talent, and it's not much, but where they're giving up 2 first-rounders, they're making up for it with just seasoning. And I've seen it and done it all, and they continuously give you good quality at bats. Like pitching to this lineup, I don't care if you're Arkansas or if you're Prairie View A&M, right. It's a problem. And listen, it's going to be a knockdown, drag out this weekend, because when you look at Vanderbilt and you look at Texas A&M, they are very similar in terms of there's some areas where A&M's got some advantages, and there's some clear areas where Vanderbilt's got some advantages. So, again, I've said it all year. The fans have been outstanding. You need to be at Olsen Field at Bluebell Park this weekend. It's going to be must-see TV, in my opinion.
Thank you, Bronny. Appreciate you. All right, when we come back, Kendall Rodgers next on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We're working on getting Kendall Rodgers from D1 Baseball on the program. We'll try him again here in about a minute or two. But as a reminder, the show is presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, and Aggie Ring Day is obviously fast approaching, and they are the exclusive College Station retailer of the original triple patent natural diamond ring wraps in all 5 styles for 2 days only. They'll be stocked with the most styles and sizes and vast selection ready to wear April 11th and 12th. Stop by and try on the different styles, make a wish list, and have some fun out there. If you'd like to get a gift ring wrap to someone special, come ready with their ring size. If you don't know it, you can call the ring office, and the stylist will help you find that right size for you. So make sure you stop by David Gardner's Jewelers during this awesome triple patented natural diamond ring wrap event, 11th and 12th of this month. All right, let's do this. As we're working on getting Kendall Rodgers, we will go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where we find Callie Gardner, who's got some text messages and also some thoughts to offer here in this segment. Callie?
Yeah, Trey and Shiner commented on Elko's recruiting. He just said, I've been very impressed with Elko's recruiting prowess. He seems to be taking high character individuals. He thinks that Jimbo had lost the locker room and that Elko hopefully won't let that happen again.
Well, let's go down that track for a minute. We're in a different world of college sports. We talk about it all the time. And I think you need strong personalities. You also need personalities that understand the dynamics that these kids are going through. And this is not just this is obviously the coaching staff, right? But also players in the locker room, which is why I think the Joshua Salazar pickup is a big one, because when you pick up team leaders, guys that practice a certain way, guys that have earned the trust of the coaching staff at previous stops and have earned the locker room, I think that sets the tone. Also, like there's a couple guys going in the portal. I'm not going to name names that have had. There's alleged names out there that I think A&M had interest in the past, and they might have interest this year. But I don't want to bring guys that are journeymen, that have maybe transferred in high school, transferred their first couple years in college because of whatever reasons, right? You've got guys that are just always looking to get that. I don't know, the attention, the recruiting attention, the likes on Twitter. And I want people that just want to go to work, put their head down and work. People that are going to hold others accountable. People that know what's the most important thing when you play for this great university. When you play at Texas A&M, it is not about it. Look, I know we all think about ourselves, but put yourself in that team dynamic. What does the team need you to do? Yeah, we all want to, if I were in a locker room, of course I want to be in the NFL and I want to get the most NIL dollars. Of course, that is a natural. Just like right now, I want TexAgs to pay me as much money as possible, as we all do in every job we want. But you look at your role and you tackle that role and you do it and you lead. If you don't have people who want to lead, then you are, and if you bring in players, and I'll speak for this intern class at TexAgs, we have a lot of people that have that go above and beyond. And that is hard to find in this generation, in my opinion, maybe because I'm an old dude, but like it is hard to find that. But we have people here that want to go above and beyond. And I think a locker room has to be built in the exact same way. A locker room needs to have guys that are guys, right? That they've got A&M on their chest, and they're going to play for that team, and they're going to bring a certain level of attitude every time they step on the field, every time they step in the locker room, and every time they go to class, because they are student athletes still. With NIL or not, they are still student athletes in my eyes, and that's what I want at Texas A&M. I don't want people that are constantly going to Twitter and constantly going to Instagram, being in their emotions. Every once in a while, that's how this generation responds to things, and I am an old man yelling at clouds, but I want somebody, keep it internal, let's go to work. Callie, what else?
Yeah, we'll stay with news. Softball has a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series this weekend. And Saturday and Sunday's games are on ESPN2, and Monday night's game is on SEC Network. So if you haven't had a chance to catch Trisha Ford and her team this season, be sure to do so this weekend as they travel to Tuscaloosa and face Alabama in a 12 versus 13 matchup. So it should be a good one. And women's golf looks to defend their SEC title as they travel to Florida this week for the SEC championship. They've won the title twice since joining the SEC, so best of luck to them as they play for their potentially third championship. And then Aggie volleyball plays their third spring game of the year on Friday at Texas State.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Obviously, we had Coach Morrison in studio a little bit earlier, so that was good stuff. Get you ready. He talked about the closeness of the coaches now, and I'm not saying it starts with Coach Elko, but I know that Coach Elko's addition has been such a welcomed. Not that Jimbo was just in his own world with football, right? Trying to figure out what was going wrong. I think Elko has embraced all the other sports, chats with those guys, and I think that has helped set a certain tone. You know, Schloss is that way. You know that Joni Taylor's that way. You know Garrett Chadwell's that way. You know that Brian Corton is that way. Jamie Morrison is that way. I can go on and on. Coach Henry, Coach G. You know, there are several really good people out there. Kendall Rodgers sending me a text that says, call now. Let's do this. Let's hit a break, and then we'll come back and we'll close out the show with Kendall Rodgers. and we'll get some baseball thoughts from him. Right now, though, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. They have amazing deals on their website. They change them every month. So when you go to that website, just recognize that they're going to have great deals on there, and that's where you start your search out there. But when you go in person and you see all the great vehicles, you're going to be blown away from many different factors. You're going to be blown away by the customer service, by the selection of vehicles, and also the service after you buy the vehicle, because that's what they're really known. They're known for the great pricing and the way they take care of their customers. They got complimentary pickup and delivery for all of their service customers. And I think you'll be blown away when you go out there and you see all the great work that they do there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And not a far drive. We're talking 15 minutes, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, it's time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. And you know they've been serving Aggieland since 1984. They've got your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. We got a short segment here with Kendall Rodgers from D1 Baseball, the kindergarten cop, or really the third grade teacher, I should say. Kendall, good morning, buddy.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm doing a little school volunteering today, so a bunch of third graders are listening to me teach math. So I don't know if they want me teaching them math, but they had to deal with it today.
Buddy, you've seen some dramatic moments for A&M baseball this year. Usually those games are within hand, but they've had some close games during the midweek here. What'd you think of last night?
The thing I like about A&M is the fact that even when they don't really play very well, they either find a way to win or they make it really interesting. I kind of go back to the South Carolina series finale. Honestly, I didn't think they played very well in that game, and that was still one of those games where you really felt like South Carolina was kind of holding on for dear life. And A&M almost still won that thing, if not for the call on the bunt there late in the game. A&M probably wins that game. So you look at that game, and then you look at UTSA game where it's like, UTSA is pitching at a high level, but then A&M's hanging in there, and at this point you expect them to win those types of games. And you look at the job that Jackson Appel did last night, and honestly, what he's done all year long, it's been really impressive. So again, I think this A&M team is one of those teams that you don't want to play bad, but they're one of those teams that they don't have to play great to win baseball games. And when you're in that kind of position, that just gives you a glimpse of how good this team can be when they are clicking on all cylinders, because we have seen that this year at times.
How about this version of Chris Cortez too? I mean, if they get this version for the rest of the way, and he's not going to be perfect every night, but he was solid again.
Yeah, that's the thing about him is what I really liked about him is early in his outing, and I only watched a little bit of the game last night, but early in his outing, there were a couple of batters where he was a little off, and he comes back, and I want to say he struck out the side after that. And, that's just the difference between Chris Cortez last year and Chris Cortez this year is, like, there's still some times where you look at the mechanics and they'll get a little out of whack. He's, I think one pitch last night he kind of stumbled off the mound. But, he regains his composure this year, and he goes back out there and knows that he has the stuff to blow people away. So, I told somebody this the other day. If you look at A&M and Chris Cortez in a regional is your Monday security blanket, if you just happen to get to Monday, and you've exhausted pitching, if that's your security blanket, man, that's a really good security blanket. So I think the role that he's in right now is actually pretty interesting in the sense that, like, they don't really have to use him, but you know what? They need to, they will, and chances are pretty good that he's going to pitch really well.
How about Troy Wansing, too? Look, he didn't have his best stuff for obvious reasons, but the fact that he could be back and helping, and he is back, I should say.
Yeah, just getting him back in the mix. Clearly he's a talented arm who, if you look back at the spin rates last year, he's got pretty good spin rates. Now he needs to, throw more strikes and command the zone. But just getting another option, another look. The one thing we've talked about the last couple of weeks is just how many different looks the A&M pitching staff can give you, and he is yet another look and a look that can get in the low 90s. I think I want to say he bumped 93, 94 a few times when I saw him last year. So, yeah, just, we'll see how he does moving forward. It's not going to be easy for him to get innings over some of these guys that are already, performing at a high level. But, it's early, like you said. First outing back from an injury, we'll see what he does.
Kendall, also, I think it's must-watch television coming this weekend, A&M and Vandy. Is that the biggest matchup this weekend? Is there something that can compete with that?
Yeah, it's the biggest one. I think if you look at A&M and Vandy, what's really interesting about these two teams, and I kind of talked about this going into the LSU series on some LSU stations, is when you look at Vanderbilt, they're really interesting in the sense that they only have 9 home runs as a team in conference play. A&M has 24 home runs as a team in conference play. So this is not a club that builds their offense around needing to hit the long ball. Now, 2 of those home runs over the weekend, 2 of those 9 in conference play were from Braden Holcomb. Obviously, after the weekend he had against LSU, it'll be interesting to see what he can do at A&M. I'm guessing the win, based on the weather expectation, I'm guessing the wind's going to be blowing out to left field and to center. So we'll see what kind of weekend he has. Obviously, it was great at LSU. But I just think on paper, A&M is a big advantage for me. I think they match up just fine pitching wise. Carter Holden has been really good, for Vandy. So is Bryce Cunningham. But it's not like A&M's, weekend guys with chopped liver either. Ryan Prager has been really good. So I think A&M has a big advantage. They can hit the long ball. They're way more offensive. But when it comes to Vandy, I'd say keep it on Alan Espinal. He's a guy that can really, really make things go for them. If he has a big weekend in College Station, that can change the dynamic of that series just a little bit.
Hey, Kendall, can you tell me, is Florida good? Because I know they've been good, but they've also gotten their butts kicked a few times, including last night, 19 runs they gave up to Florida State.
Yeah, right now they're not very good. Right now they've got so many issues we don't have enough time, I don't think, to go through all their issues.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Kendall, great stuff as always, my friend. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it, buddy. We'll see you this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Kendall Rodgers there, D1 Baseball. Go check out his work there on the site. All right. Well, how about that show? Bronny was great. He had Billy making an appearance. And what did he have to say on the broadcast last night? Callie, do you remember what he said?
He said, "Let's go home."
He did. I like the way you said it. It's kind of a kind, like next door neighbor kind of appeal to it. Let's go home. It's time to go home. Have some nice lemonade. So that was good stuff with Bronny. Appreciate his time. We also had Coach Henry in studio. We had Jamie Morrison in studio. We had the Mark Massey benefit lunch discussion. We'll have more information on that on the site. Juliana, Garcia and Morgan Mangan came by studio for that. We had John Harris. We had Olin Buchanan. And of course the cameo over there from Billy Lucci. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to have Aaron Torres on the show. We'll chit chat with Aaron. We got some other stuff planned for you as well. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We appreciate you all, and we will see you all mañana.